There we go.
Testing.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started if we could. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the budget workshop for Wednesday, June 12, 2024 at 6:02 p.m. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Park,
Here. Here.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Here.
Mayor Dan.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Preston, second Commissioner Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk.
For those attending via Zoom online wishing to speak, under public comment, please click raise hand at the bottom under the reaction tab and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by Mayor Dan. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by Chair Dan. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners, members of the public, city staff. Thank you for being here. Before we begin, I want to go over a little bit of what we're getting into here, and also just take a moment to thank our budget office for the excellent job that they've been doing on the budget thus far, as well as staff in the preparation of their departmental requests and goals to present to the City Commission over the next few days. We're going to start off with a little bit of an overview, just to give you guys some broad understanding of some key figures, go into some overarching city objectives, goals, potential issues, those sorts of items that you'll see repeated in some of the department level presentations. Then we'll go into the CIP. The CIP was provided to you, I believe, last Friday for you to review, but we'll go over it again. And then we'll go into the department level presentations, particularly in the admin departments for today. And then tomorrow we'll go into the larger operational departments. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin. Just generally speaking, we have, I have to put that, sorry about that. Or if you just do next slide for me, and for whatever reason the clicker is not cooperating. Okay, thank you. So, the budget process is continual. We don't start this in June. We're starting this just in January. We're starting to formulate the CIP request, look at position control, ask for the department level operational requests. That is all compiled. That gets us to today. So what you're being presented is not a proposed budget from me. It is a department level request. They are department level goals and objectives to get your input, not only in those, but in your own thoughts and ideas of what you'd like to see. So from here, next slide and next slide. So in terms of implementation, as you know, even now we are continually working on the budget, not only for 25, but for 24, doing things like the mid-year budget adjustments, and then of course doing the financial reporting for 23. So we're reporting in 23, we're working in 24, and we're planning for 25, and that's just a continual process that we do. On the budget calendar takes us here to today, and tomorrow on July 1st, the Broward County Property Appraiser will submit their certified values for ad valorem taxing authorities and special assessments. So we'll have those final values on July 1st. So what you're seeing here today is preliminary. On July 9th would be the meeting where the City Commission would be asked to adopt the preliminary fire rescue assessment rate, the nuisance assessment resolutions, as well as the stormwater resolution. And that'll be a new one this year as the City Commission passed to have that moved over to the non-ad valorem tax bill rather than through the utility bill. So those three will be coming forward to you on July 9th. The budget, as per the city charter, needs to be delivered to you by August 15th. As we've done in the past, we will do a official budget presentation of the proposed budget, and soon thereafter, the tentative date right now is August 16th. But we'll work with you all to make sure that we get a date that works for everybody. The first public hearing will be September 9th, and the last public hearing will be the 23rd. Those dates are a Monday, and we will we'll have the final hearing on the budget on the 23rd. So just some key demographics that I want to point out, and I think some of them are pretty relevant to today's economic conditions. But for unemployment across the board, we're tracking with the state of Florida, Broward County, and Deerfield Beach right now, which is haven't seen that consistency in the past. Our median home values still lag behind a little bit of the state of Florida, as well as Broward County, and our poverty rate is actually looking pretty good right now, which is surprising. I think that's actually an improvement that we've seen. Looking at our population, recognizing that the state of Florida is a retirement state. We're pretty close to that average in both Broward County and the state of Florida in terms of our over 65 population. And obviously we put a lot of resources into serving that community. The employment and labor force statistics, this really is reflective of how many people, not the unemployment rate necessarily, but how many people out there are working in Deerfield Beach, and that's relatively low. So that's made up of those who are retired, those who are independently wealthy, children, those sorts of things. So it gives a kind of idea of the demographics of our city. Persons per household is one that I caught my attention, and I want to point that one out, which is actually an increase from last year. And I think that what that's telling us is one of two things, which we certainly can't confirm, but we're either getting more families here in the Deerfield Beach area, or we're getting more blended families living together. And we know that that's a phenomenon that's occurring across South Florida, particularly with the high rental rates and home ownership rates. So that's something to just be, I think, aware of and track as we move forward, that we're seeing probably more families coming together living under the same household. This is just to depict the consumer price index that we've seen steadily drop, and as indicated today by the Fed, has flattened out at least for this month. So we are seeing improvements in terms of the consumer price index as it relates to inflationary costs. And this slide is something we showed you last year. We found this. This is something that we found on the Broward County Property Appraiser's website. And once again, excuse me, we are in the top 5 in terms of sales, residential sales here in the county. And most of that is deprived of condos, as it was last year. But we are still seeing, some high turnover rates in terms of real estate. With the preliminary values that they have given us in June, the average assessed value has increased about $25,000, a little bit less than the increase of the Broward County average overall. But as far as the percentage change rate, it does outpace the county. So we still are about $95,000 less than the county average in terms of assessed values here in Deerfield Beach, and still at the 11th lowest assessed value in Broward County, which was an improvement from 23. 23, we were the 10th lowest, and 24, and this year we are the 11th lowest. If we want to take a look at those assessed values and then look at the typical exemptions that are afforded to homesteaded properties, you can see when you use the city tax rate, what that city ad valorem taxes do would be based off of a single average condo, an average single family home, and then of course a property valued at the Broward County single family average value. So, you know, an average condo is at $617 a year in taxes to the city of Deerfield Beach, with the average single family home for Deerfield Beach being approximately, you know, $1,400. So put that out on the daily tax rate, you can see what that equates to. Of course, this is an average, and we've seen, you know, we've seen properties where they pay $150 in taxes because they've been there so long, and they've only, you know, they've been homesteaded for a very long time. Or you see just the opposite, you know, beachfront, or excuse me, not beachfront, but waterfront properties that are in the millions, and what that would be. And we know what that looks like, but on an average, this is what it looks like for City of Deerfield Beach taxes, and not the overall tax bill. The overall tax bill would be chopped up like this. And the rates that you see on the right-hand side are not a depiction of the current millage rates for each one of these jurisdictions. These are from 23. We'll have the 24 values at another, or excuse me, these are not the 25 values, these are the 24 values. We'll have the 25 values at a later date. But this is a good depiction of just, you know, the overall tax bill for the average, for a citizen of Deerfield Beach, or even a business of Deerfield Beach. The city of Deerfield Beach comprises 30% of that overall tax bill, while the remainder goes to these other jurisdictions. For FY25, we are anticipating a continued decline in the overall millage rate. As you can see, it's a nice drop from 24, and that is based off of us paying off our general obligation bonded debt and a consistent millage rate over the past 5 years, which is what we would be recommending this year initially to the City Commission. So the ad valorem property tax collection for total anticipated as of right now is 66.26 million, 2.84 of that going to the CRA, with a projected net general fund tax collection of 63.42 million. That would generate 10.7 million per mills for the city of Deerfield Beach, and would indicate an 8.5% increase in taxable values, taxable values of properties. Not necessarily, that's not the increase in the taxable, and the taxes, the tax revenue, that's the value of the properties at 11.3 billion throughout the city. Okay. Getting into just, this is a revenue slide that will show you overall. This is the entire budget for the city of Deerfield Beach, which would include the general fund, the utility fund, stormwater, solid waste, all of them. And so this is just a depiction of the revenues, where they come from, and what those totals look like and compared to FY 2024. So of course, the ad valorem taxes are strictly a general fund revenue, but things like special assessments are comprised mainly of fire assessment fees and other assessments, and charges for services are across the board. Typically things like your utility revenues, your stormwater revenues, your solid waste revenues. Use of fund balance here is depicted as to be determined, because the use of fund balance is comprised of several things. It includes our carry forwards. So projects that begin in one year and then continue on into the next year, all those funds get brought forward. Those have to be identified, from now until September, and then they get included. But I think it is important to recognize that what we do know about the use of fund balance today is it's approximately 14 million. About 14 million across all funds. And if I'm wrong, Tamara our budget manager, will correct me. And what we're also seeing is a decrease in the anticipated use of fund balance for the general fund this year, at least as the budget has been prepared thus far, which is a positive thing. And I know we will have our presentation on the results of the ACFR for 2023 at our next commission meeting, where our auditors will provide you with that detailed information. But I will say that we did do fairly well with that, and our unassigned fund balance within the general fund is estimated to be about 28 million. We had projected, I think, 24.8 at this time last year. So, in terms of general fund revenues, this is a busy slide, but what's important in on the top right or the right portion of this pie chart is a representation of the ad valorem, the ad valorem tax revenue that comes out of the general fund at 41%, which is frankly relatively low for a city. You're going to see various, you saw this chart for other cities. It's all going to depend on the makeup of that city. So you take someone like a Weston or a Parkland, and you're going to see a lot more reliability on that ad valorem tax revenue than a city like ours, who's diversified in terms of its composition of residential, commercial, industrial, and those sorts of things. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over to Horace, so you don't hear me talking the entire time, and he's going to go over some of the large items that we want to talk about.
So good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. While the manager spoke just now about certain things that impact us regionally, this is an overview of some of the things that globally will affect the city prior to us getting into the individual accounts, the individual departments. So some of the accomplishments that we had early in the year, there was the adoption of the strat plan, which helped to identify and create a roadmap for the direction that we want to go, you want to go for the next couple of years. Quickly thereafter, the manager then identified certain core values, service, honesty, accountability, respect, professionalism, which we tried working with our executive team in terms of developing those as attributes that we think that each of our employees should have, and try to advocate that. Some of the concerns that we've had for the entire organization is staffing. We pride ourselves investing in our human resources, but we recognize that it's been a difficult labor market, high turnover rates, high vacancy rates. As a result, some of the things that we've had, and you'll probably see for next year, is a higher than usual reliance on temp services and overtime. During this past year, to try and accomplish that, the Commission had adopted the case study, and we went through the second phase of the implementation of that case study, anticipating that that would help in providing some relief. Some of the things that we experienced was heavy on the executive recruitment. We were active and in terms of recruiting for a CFO, purchasing manager, I think a parks director and assistant director during the year, city clerk and assistant city clerk. So there were a number of key positions that we were actively recruiting, and certainly that creates in those key positions, recruiting for those and dealing with vacancies creates some disruption in the organization. But on the other hand, it creates an opportunity and ability for the manager to build his team and identify individuals who are vested in the strategic plan and the sharp core values. From a staffing and organizational perspective, we're in the process of negotiating labor agreements now, anticipating that that will be implemented in the next fiscal year. We've invested in our capital and infrastructure, and some of the things you'll see reflect that. Some of the visible things like the Braithwaite, the Tigna Center, the pool repairs, AMI meters, you'll see and hear from different department directors. In terms of community engagement, we continue things like our Community Engagement Cafe. We continue our special events. We continue the outreach that our Public Affairs Department has been doing. And one of the things that we implemented was the Luncheon Commission meeting as an opportunity of further educating, providing that awareness and engaging the community. And the other bullet here talks about the fiscal controls and financial oversight which we have done. Certainly, we put a lot of emphasis on the budget, on the ACFR, in terms of addressing internal controls, compliance, and reporting. During this past year, we responded to the Auditor General in terms of the findings that they had for the recent audit, and those have been cleared. Additional things in financial controls, we issued bonds to address some of the infrastructure, and we continued to move forward in terms of more appropriate ways of funding the assets. The other thing that under financial controls I wanted to mention is that as our costs escalate, there's a need for us to look at our cost structure and either adjust our fees to be in line with the cost or look at other methods of service delivery. So those are things that organizationally we'll have to deal with. For next year, some of the organizational-wide considerations is to finalize the sale and development agreement for the 1045 site. That's the approximate $160 million mixed-use site with a hotel, residential, commercial parks, and other attributes, and a $7.5 million in terms of community contributions. Our infrastructure investments you'll continue to see either continued or starting. Things like the Pioneer Grove infrastructure improvements, the 8th Avenue, the Bear Creek drainage, the FAU, Research Boulevard, MLK. So those are some of the things that you'll hear about from the departments. But we're doing a lot in terms of infrastructure investment. Regarding our downtown master plan, we presented you with a concept for the area. And based on that, we're moving forward with the continued planning. We anticipate completing that plan, and as part of discussion, finalizing a financial model that we could have the commission looking at. Economic development, we think is important, whether it's in citywide or whether it's in the central city redevelopment area. So we're looking at various tools to stimulate the areas, studies, plans, incentives, programs, adjustments to the land development code, additional things like that to try and stimulate the activities and the development activities in the area. And the other thing under economic development we wanted to acknowledge is that our plan building review is contracted, and that contract expires during this year. So one of the things that we'll need to be doing is looking at how that service is provided and possibly bringing that back to you. One of the organizational concerns we have is our public safety costs. The BSO provides great service they're responsive, and it's expandable in terms of the services that we need. We have a contract that at the beginning of each year, they provide us with a cost, and in this particular case, you'll see that the anticipated cost increase for next year is 4.2, which represents about 7% over this past fiscal year. So that's something that we just have to be aware of. In the public safety conversation, there'll be more discussions about options, alternatives, and what the needs are. But just wanted to bring this to your attention because as we look at cost containment, this is maintaining the same levels of service. In this case, will cost us maybe $4.2 million more. Other issues relating to public safety is the need to complete the public safety master plan. And we anticipate that being completed later in the year and then being brought to you with some alternatives. With that, preliminarily, some of the things that we're aware of is the need to address, substantially renovate or replace maybe 4 of our 6 fire stations. So we anticipate there's a lot that will be done in terms of the planning and the design to address that, simultaneously looking at the services and the activities and demands of the fire chief. One of the considerations is to, add a fire executive officer, assistant chief or deputy chief to the roster. Another consideration that we'll be bringing forward is some review of the fire assessment fee. Right now, we have the opportunity of assessing 100% of that. We're assessing at less than 100%. Anything that we're not, those fees are directly and specifically assigned to address fire-related costs. So to the extent that we're not passing those on as a fire fee, it has to be made up from the ad valorem and the millage. So that's something that we'd like to at least make you aware of and bring that to you so that a decision can be made whether you'd rather fund that out of millage or fire assessment fees. The contract with our code compliance, that will be expiring also. And in addition to providing the service is the levels of service. We had a workshop specifically dealing with that, and the public safety director brought that to your attention in relative to the levels of service that we're providing in our city here. And under the public safety, one of the other things that definitely you'll be seeing is the completion of the new lifeguard stations and expansion of service into the new tower. Regarding community engagement, the budget includes a parks and recreation master plan to get the input, program, service, and activities and locations of some of the things that the community finds desirable. And community engagement, we have a municipal election next March. So that's something that the community would be involved in. That's an impact, financial impact on our budget. And certainly our centennial celebration, this next year will be 100-year, a huge milestone, and the budget includes some activities to celebrate that and commemorate that. In terms of business process and internal controls, this budget includes the establishment of an insurance service fund for the medical insurance, and that allows us to separate the fund for the health fund balance as recommended by our insurance broker, auditor, and state compliance. And additionally, you'll see separate costs in each department associated with that. We'll be completing our cost allocation study, and that allows us to assign the cost for administrative services and administrative support to the various funds and departments at which they're charged. The state uniform chart of accounts will be implemented, and we anticipate the ERP or TILA system to go live, and the plan is to have the financial module going live in January and the human resources module going live in the summer, June, July. That's a process that I know the commission has asked about. We're heavily invested in that, and that takes a lot of effort in terms of staff going through the training, going through the setup, and going through the testing. And that's currently on track, and we anticipate that to be completed during the year. Employee relations, we will be implementing the new labor agreements that we would have negotiated, and that would be brought to you prior to the beginning of the year. We'll be looking at establishing some fund balance and other policy proposals that look to improve our compliance and financial reporting. And again, we'll be looking at some fee studies and revenue recommendations, whether there be impact fees, magistrate, parking, code, but generally to look at issues that or service providing, or the cost of providing the service, and look at the revenues that we're capturing for that. So that summarizes the overall, issues. And I think the next presentation we have is finance, so I'm not sure if you want to pause for questions now, or if you want us to go into the financial, the finance.
Commissioner, any questions?
Okay. We're actually gonna go,
But before we continue, is there any way to turn on the volume, turn it up higher for those people that are online? Is that a possibility? Thank you.
we're actually gonna go through the CIP first. So you also have the CIP presentation, in your packet. It's a separate presentation. So within the presentation, you're going to see a summary slide of the 5-year CIP for each fund in the general fund, utility, stormwater, solid waste, road and bridge funds. But we're going to go into some detail on the ones that are anticipated for FY25. And of course, if I need to go into any additional detail for you, you have any questions, just let me know. It's a large presentation, so we're not going to go into detail on every single project. I'll just try to hit the big ones, and gloss over, for lack of a better word, some of the other ones. Okay, so the anticipated general fund capital for this year is 27.7 million. This comes from a variety of sources, whether it's general fund revenue, grants, things of that nature. As an example, you see FAU Research Park Boulevard. There you have, the anticipation of community contribution from the sale of 1045 project, as well as Broward County surtax funding and these various things. So the expectation should not be that 27 million is coming directly from the general fund. Some of it also anticipates the use of debt service. And now we'll go ahead and go into the actual projects. Some of our access control hardware in City Hall we are not able to fix it anymore. The parts are obsolete, so we have to update some of the access control hardware within City Hall. For the artificial reef, we're looking at starting the design of that, and we're in a different landscape now than we were when we did the artificial reef project before, because now the location which we had originally intended to put it is now being considered critically eroded. So we have to have another evaluation of this, because there are concerns that the placement of the artificial reef where we originally anticipated putting it, which is in the shallow portion of the Atlantic Ocean, could potentially have an impact on our ability to do renourishment projects there in the future. So we need to do a design assessment with some professionals and figure out the best way to do that. Beach restrooms are, they're always needing attention. And we want to get on a schedule where we are updating these restrooms with the various fixtures on a more regular schedule, realizing that the harsh saltwater environment does not last very long. And so the first year would be the permitting and for the pier restrooms, and then we would go ahead and complete those. And we thought that would be the appropriate one to do initially, as we have the pier renovations going on. So, and then we'll work our way, every year on a different restroom, addressing what needs to be done on, not just a maintenance schedule, but on a more comprehensive repair schedule. Yes.
The new restaurant at the beach, will they have their own restrooms, or are they going to use the pier restroom
They have their own restroom.
as well? So we'll have additional.
So the restaurant will have the restaurant does today have restrooms,
Okay,
and then there are public restrooms outside.
thank you.
This is a project that staff has asked me to take a look at. And this would be to, over at Central City Campus, when you walk in, it's a wide open atrium. And they'd like to look at designing to close that in. Right now, we have folks that have literally working out of some of the hallways in there. So we need to find additional space. Honestly, I think we've got some movements that will be occurring with Tigner and some other things that I want to take a look at first and see how that will affect it. And there's also in here, you'll see some plans to do some reconfiguration of the downstairs as it is. So bring this to you because it's, you know, obviously a budget request, and I'm going to bring it all forward to you. But we'll assess that further. City Hall renovations. This is a continuation of the City Hall renovation project that you all recently approved, and the life safety access within there, the fire alarm systems are required to be upgraded as a result of that. So we would be looking at some additional cost of $150,000 to that project to update the fire safety equipment in the building, regardless of whether or not we did this renovation. We would have had to do this anyway, because we just realized at the time of the renovation that these were inadequate systems and not up to date to city code. Citywide fence replacement. We need to want to take a better look at our fences throughout the city, obviously, and this replacement would be something that we look at on a continual basis. The first project that would be done would be the middle school athletic complex. I've noticed myself that the fences is in need of repair, and we want to make sure that those fields are secure and the fences are not in disrepair. That's for that. This year, it would be the middle school athletic complex. Court resurfacing. Obviously, all of our tennis courts, our basketball courts, so on and so forth. That is what this funding would do. And this fitness court would be, this one would be at the at OMRC, where the old playground was. So this would provide that fill in that space there. As you know, we are about to, they actually got the signage out there. We're starting on the median improvement projects. The MMOAs with the FDOT have received final approval. You have approved the contracts and work is about to begin. Of course, that's not going to touch every single median of the city. So if we are going to continue down that path and have our medians throughout the city addressed, we want to add funding and maintain that continuation of improving them. So we're talking about median improvements like Powerline, Dixie, Military, and 48th as we move forward and complete what we already have embarked on. Citywide park lighting. This one is, this park lighting project is for Constitution Park. We certainly have inadequate lighting throughout there in the Arboretum. We want to make sure that we address that. So we are asking for the funding to do that lighting project throughout Constitution Park. Many of the citywide, many of the pavilions throughout the city parks are in need of repair. This funding would take care of the pavilions at Cornerstone Park, Constitution Park, and Villages of Hillsborough. Playgrounds typically have a lifespan of approximately 8 to 10 years, and this is a continual need throughout the city in the various playgrounds. We've done several, you hear from Parks and Recreation, of the ones that they were able to complete here in 2024. But in 2025, this would be funding for Southeast 19th Ave and River Glen. Moving away from the beach area, we have some restrooms that also need attention. The one that throughout our asset inventory at this point that we would like to address is Villages of Hillsborough. Street lighting, yeah, this is a conversion project that we are funding through mostly surtax. We had 800,000 from surtax that we've been, I'll say, negotiating with the county on making sure that we can use those to do a citywide streets project, which would take us to the FP&L tariff program, putting the responsibility of the installation and the maintenance on them. So the 400,000 is a really, we're not there yet with the surtax for them to approve the use of that funding. But if we do, we're going to have the funding to be able to do all the street lighting throughout the city and convert that to LED. So this is still a work in progress, but hopefully we get that 800,000 to do that project. Citywide street resurfacing. The 2018 bond provided for street resurfacing throughout the city. We hit about 60% of the city, I believe, with that resurfacing. And since it's been approximately 5 years since we did that, we want to start to address the rest of the city and have the funding to continue that. We have a PCI rating. It's called a PCI rating. Yes, a PCI rating of 81, which is, if you think about it, about an 81% rating on our roadway system. We like to keep it up there. We'd hate to see that really drop too much, because that's a good way to, you know, from a traffic and safety perspective, keep things on the up and up. So if we provided this funding on an annual basis, we could maintain our city streets in an appropriate way year over year, rather than a one hard hit, like through a bond or something like that we had to do in 2018. The citywide key unification system is a carry forward. This will carry forward, and it was scheduled for 23 and 24. So 24 is, I believe, a little bit behind schedule. So we're carrying this forward and getting this completed. We have a contract. We have a plan. A lot of it was having to deal with the key structure. It's kind of amazing how you have to establish this key structure, creating this grand master key, and then work your way down the organizational chart on who can get into where, and figuring that out for all 500 key locations that we have throughout the city. Downtown center. So as Horace discussed with you, we're going to have to start allocating some dollars to this project as we move forward. Once we get through the ULI TAP study and get some of their recommendations, we're going to need to move to a more of a concrete conceptual design through both input from the city commission and, of course, the public on how they envision that area in downtown, the downtown area. And this will be the dollars to get us to those more concrete conceptual designs. We anticipate that will take place next year. When we redid the 13th Ave bridge, they went over the top of the structure underneath it. And now what remains is the old structure that is obsolete. So it's gonna continue to deteriorate, and it could be, a safety issue. It's certainly not aesthetically pleasing either. And on top of that, it does reduce the height of the bridge, right, from the water. So we want to go ahead and finish that off and remove it. We are pursuing a grant for an electric vehicle, and hopefully we get that. But we did the project with FP&L for the electric charging stations there at the beach. And this project would expand that electric charging capability in the city. Locations and such are yet to be determined, but we would be able to expand this with a couple additional electric vehicle charging stations for both the city and for the public as well. The next one is the carry forward on the ERP implementation project that Horace spoke of. And again, we are on track for financial implementation of January 1 go live date and HR in July of 25. FAU Research Boulevard is a park that has been designed. This is going to be funded by a variety of sources. It's an approximately $10 million project. So we have surtax funding available for this. It'll also be offset by the community contribution from the 1045 site, and leaving some that would need to be debt funded. Additionally, there may be I want to make the commission aware that there may be a timing issue in relation to when we need to start this project as per the surtax requirements and the relation to the money that we would receive from the community contribution. So we may need to front that money. We'll know at a later date, but ultimately that would be reimbursed through the community contribution. And as well as the remaining being debt finance, any portion not between the surtax and the community contribution. FEC fence, we just got an additional $750,000 to extend the fence along Dixie Highway. That was for the portion of 10th Street to 15th. If we want to continue that from 15th down to our border, which would be Sample Road, the estimated cost is approximately $1.8 million. The reason why this is in the CIP for 25 is that the Dixie Highway Triple R project, which is a roadway reconstruction project, is scheduled for FY27. We'd like to have the ability to get that fencing project done before they jump onto the roadway and do that project. Joint beach renourishment. This will be the second project that we need to construct since the recently executed settlement agreement with the town. The cost of the project is going to depend primarily on what is permittable. And as I mentioned before, we are now have much more of our beach that's critically eroded. So the design template has to change and include that portion of the beach in order to to maximize what we can do there and try to keep the sand on the beach. And so it's going to take some dollars, and this, remember, these are shared costs with the town of Hillsborough Beach. That they are required to pay 50% as well. Okay, Northeast 3rd Ave, Safe Streets for All. We were recently awarded a $3.6 million grant for this project. And the rest of it, the remaining $900,000, would be debt finance. But the limits of this is from on Northeast 3rd Ave and Northeast 38th Street, and would include a roundabout. So this really is the project. This goes from 48th down to the hospital, right? Yeah. Yeah, so as you remember, we did the temporary project, the first city in Deerfield Beach to do that tactical urbanism project. We all know how terrible it looks, and it wasn't supposed to last that long, because we thought that we would be able to see this as a C-SLIP project through the MPO. But unfortunately, they did not continue to fund that. And so here is our opportunity to get that portion of the roadway addressed. So if this project goes through, that would mean that we would have completed the portion of the road from 10th Street to basically sample in two projects over the course of the next couple of years. We do need some funding to address the exterior envelope of the old schoolhouse. We've been patching here and there, but we do need to do an envelope waterproofing on that building, on that historical building. The lighting on Oviedo McKeithen Field is reached its useful life. So the lights are not as bright as they used to be. They're not providing the safe lighting levels that you need for nighttime field use. We would still continue to use the existing poles, of course, but this would swap out to newer LED technology. And the cost of that is $275,000. Parking lot resurfacing in city lots is something that we have started to address. We've received some feedback from the city commission on various lots that need to be resurfaced, and we want to continue to do that on a reoccurring basis. Last year, we brought before you this same project, and I'll look for your feedback again. But this would reconfigure some of the parking space, not only at City Hall, but over at BSO to provide more parking for the public. I will tell you that it is not uncommon at all to watch visitors circle the parking lot and not be able to find any parking at City Hall, whether in the parking lot or on street. And so we'd like to be able to address that. We know that it is a problem for the public, and this would provide additional space not only for our city visitors, but also for BSO. They currently house some of their equipment in unsecured areas in the city, not behind a secured fence. If you have additional questions on that, I'd be happy to discuss that with you individually. So as the pier is under construction, this is an opportunity for us to address some issues that we've seen over the years with the pier bait shop. Particularly the windows and how we service the public from them. So we don't have a window system there that it really provides for, it's not working as we'd like to see it working, meaning that it's not a transactional window. And now, so plus we have some issues with some mechanical units that are there. So this project would include not only the windows, but it would include enclosures for the mechanical units or equipment that are there at the pier bait shop to protect those little. And the cost of that is $75,000. A Pioneer Grove corridor. So we have $2.8 million in surtax funding for this project. We've already completed design at $586,000. The $1 million here that could be used through debt loan proceeds would provide for the remainder of this project. And so to familiarize you with that, that's Southeast 2nd Ave from Eller to 10th. It includes 4th Street from Dixie to Southeast 2nd Ave and Eller from the railroad to Northeast 6th Ave. This would improve that roadway and provide for on-street parking, additional landscaping, also provide for additional stormwater and utility demand based on the projections of the growth of the corridor. We've completed the repairs of all of the piers over at Pioneer Park except for Pier number 5. And I think some of you have actually seen some pictures sent by residents of the condition of that pier. It's wood pilings, and so this project would remediate that. We did seek grant funding for this project, but we weren't awarded. So this would come from general fund operating, and this would take care of Pier number 5, which is considered the fishing pier in that area where the boat ramp is. Lastly, something that we've been starting to talk about a little bit, but is the well. So we're almost done with all the rehabilitation over at the East Water Plant. You'll see another CIP down the road here to resurface the parking lot, which would that would be the final thing that we need to do over at the East Water Plant in terms of all the demolition that we have done to the structures over there. And the idea here is to create a space, a cultural art space, a gathering place within the Central City area, using the asset that we already have, which is the East Water Plant, to do things like small concerts and food trucks and those sorts of things. So the $30,000 this year would be used for the design of such a space. This slide represents the capital request of vehicles for this year, the largest one being a fire platform. I've had conversations with some of you individually, if not all of you, that a fire platform, that's the ladder, is got a current lead time of approximately 3 years, potentially even more. 4 years. 4 years. So we don't need a platform today, but we do need a platform in 4 years. And so with the lead times that we're seeing on these vehicles and other vehicle assets, and we've had these conversations about how long it is to take to get some of this stuff, we have to amend kind of our capital vehicle replacement planning to ensure that we get these when we need them. So we'd be buying it today, and we would not be seeing this vehicle for 4 years. The rest of the capital is up there, and I won't go into any further detail on that. Before we go into road and bridge, I want to pause because that was a lot of items, and wanted to see if there was any feedback, any questions. And of course, I have my staff here who understands these projects in greater depth than I do, and myself or them would be happy to expand upon them.
Mr. Dross, or Vice Mayor Dross, do you have anything? Commissioner Parnas? Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Okay.
On page 13, where it's citywide park lighting, you talked about a specific park. What I want to know, first of all, let me ask this question. Do we have 24-hour operational lighting in all of our parks?
Yeah.
It's on. There it is. It's on now.
Okay, Commissioner Greg Warner, Director of Parks and Recreation. Yes, we have some level of security lighting in each of our parks. We are upgrading some of those this year, and this will include the lighting of the parks for next year.
So what I'm asking is, though, currently, is there 24-hour lighting?
There's some levels of security lighting in all parks, yes.
What does that mean? Define it for me.
The parks are not illuminated at night, but there's certain smaller lighting that helps us with security. So they're not totally dark at night. There's some level of lighting.
Okay, well, I think we need to go to 24-hour, and you and I talked about this last year a little bit, David. But it's 24 hours. Let's look at this. The level of security that you're talking about would be considered low level because anybody walking in a park where there's any area that's not really illuminated, there is an invitation for issue. 24-hour lighting for safety in every park in the city of Deerfield Beach is needed.
Yes, and I think if, correct me if I'm wrong, we talk about security lighting is 24/7, or on during all hours of the night. But things obviously like, ball field lighting and things like that, that's not gonna be on at all times, right? Of course.
Right.
So, yes, and I actually believe that one of the parks is Johnny McKeithen, is that the one? Yeah, so we actually are working with FPNL right now to install that type of lighting into Johnny McKeithen right now.
It's important, no matter what park is in the city of Deerfield Beach, if, you know, a mother and her kids are walking around in a park at night, that they feel secure in those parks. And that's gotta be, you know, whatever the low-level lighting is that I'm hearing here now, it needs to be that every resident would feel secure with that measure of lighting. But you telling it to me, I don't know what that looks like,
Right.
but that needs to,
It's gonna, it's what it is, it's gonna be either lighting that's attached to a building that
Mhm.
stays on 24/7, or some pedestrian height lighting that would also. stay on.
Similar to street lighting.
okay, all right. So on page 16, we were talking about citywide, restrooms. I want to know if that includes, Mayo Howard Park.
It doesn't, because Mayo Howard Park has, how much? Oh, well, we're looking at a $5 million renovation of the entire park. So, that is likely to be, 26.
In 26?
Correct.
Okay, here's the problem. For people that would be renting the park right now, the bathrooms need to be presentable and they need to be clean. And if there is some attention that needs to be given to the bathrooms now for people that would be utilizing the park, you know, we can't tell them now, it looks like this, it's like this, and we gotta wait till 26. That's unacceptable.
Mhm.
So that needs to be addressed.
Okay, so we can certainly look at the conditions of the existing restrooms, see how we can improve upon them until a major renovation occurs.
And on page 32, you were talking about the Pioneer Grove corridor. And if I understood you correctly, there's a surtax for that?
Correct. Surtax funding is funding $2.8 million of that project.
Okay. It is, but here it says $1 million, right?
Correct. This would be the general fund ask. We would wrap this into a debt financing to provide the funding for the entirety of the project.
So the cost of the project is not, I just want to get it right. Because it says, project cost $1 million, but we already got 2.8 in surtax.
Right. So this is in addition to the 2.8.
This is an addition.
Correct.
The $1 million.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, how come it only says $1 million?
Because that's the ask for the fiscal year.
Okay.
So, right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hudak?
Just a couple of quick questions. First of all, I'm glad you clarified with the lighting, because I've got residents who complain about how bright it is at 11 o'clock at night and it goes back on at 6 in the morning. So I'm glad you clarified that. You know, the security lighting is great, but we don't want those ball field lights on, because we've got residents that have homes right there.
Can you just tell me what park you're referring to, just so I know?
By the middle school.
Okay, thank you.
And we've talked about it before. The one question I do have is, for years, I've talked about the condition of Palm Plaza and that parking lot, and I didn't see anything with regards to the parking lot resurfacing. It needs to be more than just resurfaced, so I don't know what our plans are, but each year I hear it's not this year, it's gonna be next year. So I'd like to find out what we're doing about Palm Plaza, because there's a lot of businesses over there that have a lot of challenges, especially on a day like this. So if you can give me some update on that, I'd be appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. To go back to Commissioner Preston's comments, let me go back over the minutes from last year's budget workshop, because this sounds a lot like Groundhog Day to me. because we talked about that, and Commissioner Preston brought it up. In the minutes, it talks about what we were doing with this lighting that was supposed to happen. Did we do lighting in Mayo Howard Park? We just said we didn't.
We did not.
Did we do them in Villages of Hillsborough Park? No. Did we did not?
Not this year, Mayor, no.
Did we actually do any lighting in any of the parks? Did we do Constitution Park?
We did not do Constitution. We're working on certain lighting projects right now for Johnny McKeithen, and we will continue with that.
Okay, so we didn't complete any lighting in any parks this past year for 2024.
Currently, no, we're in the
Okay.
process.
So I'm going to go back to the minutes from last year's budget workshop in which we made a presentation. We talked about the lighting, which Commissioner Preston brought up about 24-hour lighting. And the Commissioner Hudak backed up with the fact that 24-hour lighting in all parks is not something that was feasible and would cause problems, especially at the middle school park, because of the residents there. So we've had this same conversation last year. What was promised to us, or what was, I don't want to say promised, but was talked about, that was going to be completed for this year was Mayo Howard Park, Villages of Hillsborough, and Constitution. And here we have planned for 2025 Constitution, and we've done none of the other ones. So what happened on that?
So specifically with Mayo Howard was the opportunity to redo the entire park.
Makes sense?
And then Constitution, I can't,
Constitution, we just have not gotten to yet, to be honest with you, Mayor. And we will be doing a full renovation of that part when we're doing the community center as well. So
But the community center is slotted for a couple of years down
that's
the road.
that's 26 as well. So it wouldn't be 25, but we need to, we'll be looking at Constitution Park lighting with the funding that we currently have.
Okay, well, you're confusing me a little bit here because so last year we talked about doing 3 parks, we did none of them. Makes sense with Mayo Howard Park. Right now, you're telling us Constitution Park is going to be done with $350,000. They said that might wait until we do the renovation of the community center there, but I know looking at future down the road, that that's not for the next couple of years that that's going to happen. So we are going to do Constitution Park this year. There's no mention of Villages of Hillsborough Park. And also in those minutes, they talked about, and this is pretty new, so that please understand that my confusion on this is related to comments made by the previous director and not you. He talked about the possibility of solar lighting being implemented. So basically, none of these projects got completed, and we're starting on one. We're looking to do one park this year, and that's it.
We're in the process, and I misspoke, we're in the process of prioritizing those parks. Johnny McKeithen came to the forefront as a definite need, an immediate need for us this year since I've been here. But we do have funding enough to do a second project. So in the process right now of prioritizing that. If that does turn out to be Constitution, that is one of the parks that was on that list. And Villages as well, but we're going to look at that too.
Okay, but the notes I put in here is now you're saying Johnny McKeithen. Did you guys say that when you presented slide number 15?
That's one that's being currently worked on, and
So that's currently for this year, right?
Right.
Okay, so we bypass, that's when I asked, did we do any parks? I guess I should rephrase that. Did we complete any parks, and are we currently working on them? So we're currently working on Johnny McKeithen because there are 3 prioritized.
none complete.
Okay, and then we're looking to do, so while we didn't do 3 of the ones we talked about last year, we are working on a different one this year because of high priority, which makes sense. But that still leaves us 1 park kind of short based on this year and what we're planning next year. So that needs to be figured out with a clear indication of that.
Understood.
You know, I have, just to give you guys a preamble, I have all of last year's minutes that I requested. And I'm going to go through each one of them because what I don't see in these presentations is this is what we said last year we're going to accomplish. This is what of last year's mentioning and budgeting was accomplished. And this is what we plan on doing this year. So it's very hard. Well, I see some of it's in carryover, and I'm gonna go through each one of these because I have a lot of questions. Because they don't add up. I'm not seeing where that meets that. So, you know, this format that we're doing here is a little difficult to follow if we're gonna look back at our history and what we've been promising previous. So that's what I'm gonna try to do here, to make some sense out of this for me so I can understand it. Because this is my last one, so I'm gonna make this fun. Looking at number 14, the citywide pavilion, we talked about, you said Cornerstone, Constitution, and Villages of Hillsborough Park, got that. Sorry, bear with me a moment as I go through my notes here. All right, page 19, citywide unified food management system. This was carried over from 2024. What is the delay and why were we unable to pull that off again? You gave me some idea of that, but I just want some clarification if I could.
Sure, and so we're still currently working on that. And getting to a place where we understood who needed what key and access to what door. There were 500 of these. Like I said, you're gonna have one key that is like the key to the city, if you will. And then every other key and every other person who's gonna have a key needs to be part of this key tree. So that took a very long time to figure out. We didn't think it was gonna be as complex. But we have that now, and we're ready to move forward.
Okay. It doesn't seem like that's just taken a whole year, but that's disappointing. Citywide restrooms, you're looking at doing Villages of Hillsborough Park for $230,000. What kind of bathrooms are going in there?
Pricing is not cheap anymore, but if you, with that kind of goes in conjunction with the pavilion out
Okay.
there, because that is one unit. So we will have a prefab restroom similar to the one that, a little bit larger, but similar to the one that's going in the Constitution this year. And the pricing on that is right around that.
Okay. All right, because I know what's there existing, but if you're combining that, this probably isn't just plumbing then, those restrooms. It's part of the pavilion renovation.
Well, it's in conjunction with the
Okay.
pavilion. That cost does not include the pavilion. So when we did doing the Constitution Park restroom, the prefab portion of the restroom, just the facility is over $100,000, and then the infrastructure and the pad and all that is placed in there as well.
Okay, so you're looking to do the bathrooms separate than what they currently exist. Because Constitution's different. The Constitution, they don't have any outside bath.
Right.
Right, so that's when you got a floor slab and everything. But we currently have bathrooms at Villages of Hillsborough Park, and we have them there. So we're not, unless we're gonna build completely new bathrooms with a whole new slab, which sounds like what you're just saying, that price tag makes a little more sense. But when you have two existing bathrooms, it's gonna cost us $230,000. I wanna know how nice those toilets are, because they sound amazing. I'll just go over there.
And like I say, the restrooms at Constitution is much smaller than what we go at Villages, and they came in about 120. So we are pricing in the market, is probably looking at that with the infrastructure.
So they're gonna be completely different bathrooms.
They'll be in the same location, but they'll be different bathrooms. I mean, that prefab unit is going to be much more costly than Constitution.
I just don't understand why we need a prefab if we have existing ones, so I guess I'm a little confused.
No, we're tearing down.
You are tearing down?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's different.
Okay.
That's the kind of clarity
Yeah, we're
I need.
replacing. the
Because I
existing.
just said, we have existing, so what are we doing, creating a new slab and everything, so I get, thank you. I'm sorry if my question
I didn't catch that.
confusing, so I apologize. I think so. Okay. When it comes to funding from the C-flip for Northeast Third Avenue, that the MPO did not provide, what was the reason given for that? Not being included and not funding not happening? Well, I'm on the MPO, so I know the ranking, but I want to see what they said why we didn't make the cut on that.
There were just other communities that ranked higher. They look at a number of different factors, and off the top of my head right now, I can't think of all of them, but, you know, socioeconomic factors, they look at high injury networks. So predominantly, they're looking to see who gets the best cost benefit, and so we just didn't rank high enough in their ranking. Plus, they have limited funding now, so where we used to have awards of 10 projects annually, now they're pretty much just awarding 2 each year. So.
Okay. I would, you know, and that's further discussion I will have with Greg. I just want to see what they told you, because since that was the very first tactical project they did in all of Broward County, you would have thought we would have been able to be eligible. So I'm just curious to know what they told you the reason why. But I know it's a ranking system and how that works, so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. And we did seek funding through Safe Streets for All, which is a federal program.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
On page 31, with the pure base shop improvement, will that include a change in the layout, just new windows?
Yeah, no, this is really just the transaction window and protecting our mechanical units on that building.
So the casework, millwork, and facade restoration, none of it has to do with painting the inside, because it looks like it's either a combination of a storage room, a really bad retail store, or something along there. It looks like a hybrid, and it doesn't seem very welcoming to me. So that's something that I would like, if we're gonna fund some improvements there and just the window, maybe we look at what we're doing on the inside as well. Okay.
Mr. City Manager, can you make sure that the volume is at an acceptable level? I have people that are texting me saying that they cannot hear, and it's already been requested that.
So I'm going to send IT staff outside with their phone and jump on Zoom. We're going to see how the volume is. It could be that I'm not speaking close enough to the mic. Yeah, he's shaking his head. So I'll make sure that I do that.
Okay, thank you.
I think I was guilty of that as well, so my apologies. I'm usually never quiet.
Okay, next, we're going to go on to the Road and Bridge Fund. Okay, so here it's a vehicle, it's a dump truck. Any questions on the dump truck? Okay. And then in utilities, Priscilla, you might as well just come up here. Thank you. All right, so for FY 25, the request is I think it's lower than last year, and it's certainly lower than what next year is going to be, as we include that $18 million ion exchange project. But I'll go through them, and again, Priscilla can fill in the gaps. Let me get there. Got to find my page. Excuse me. All right, there we go. All right, so the East Water Treatment Plant site improvements. So we have just a few remaining things to do, as I mentioned, when we did the demolition to the East Water Treatment Plant, and that includes, we have a 2-tiered roofing structure that will need to be replaced, and we're going to asphalt the site there. That would be the closest area to the Braithwaite Center for Active Aging. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. This one is for general citywide pipe replacement. And this is for various pipes that we have when we have breaks throughout the city. So I know that that's a very concrete number, but what we did is we looked at the budget, and we used the remainder to just budget the portion of the remaining to match that 254,000. So it's not specific to a certain project, but it is to recognize that we obviously have water breaks throughout the city, and we need the funding source to rehabilitate and replace those pipes. The nanofiltration degasifier media, this is design costs. There's 546,000 in the CIP for FY26. And this is to replace the nanofiltration degasifier system media that is anticipated to be replaced every 5 years. Also, the reverse osmosis degasifier and scrubber media replacement needs to occur. The reverse osmosis system right now includes one degasifier and one chemical scrubber. And there are other auxiliary systems that are used to remove and treat these gases. But due to the nature of the treatment process, it's an extremely corrosive environment, so they degrade pretty rapidly. And as such, it's critical that we replace these things on a regular reoccurring basis. In addition, there are regulatory requirements as it relates to the air quality that comes from the degasifiers. The reverse osmosis and nanofiltration sand strainer project, this will actually be an improvement for us because currently the reverse osmosis portion of the water treatment plant does not have sand strainers installed, but the nanofiltration does. And when you pull water from the earth at the depths that we do, the sand comes up as well. So the nanofiltration one needs to be replaced. We don't want to have one at the reverse osmosis plant. This project will use a sand filtration system for both systems.
Hi, good evening. Priscilla Sigelnik, Director for Environmental Services. So this sand strainer will be replaced with smaller units to run more efficiently. So this is for an efficiency as well as an improvement in the water quality.
Priscilla, I'm just going to go ahead and let you do the next one.
I want to defer to Josh on these because this is largely his baby. Josh, do you want to come up here and talk to your, yeah, I'll let you talk to the system.
Good evening, Commission. Mayor Josh Neiman, Assistant Director of Environmental Services. We have the RO element and train refurbishment project. The reverse osmosis elements were installed in 2010. Those are due to be replaced. They generally last anywhere from 8 to 14 years, just depending on the water quality that's being fed to them. And that's what this project includes. In FY24, we do have the design costs, and this includes the actual equipment and then installation. Transite water mains, we currently have a design with a consultant to identify all of the transite water mains within the CDBG low to moderate income areas. This is being grant funded for the design, and the replacement will be funded through the utility budget. And then the East Water Plant replacement, water main replacement at the East Water Plant in FY24, we have the design to replace those lines. In 2018 and 19, Carollo came in and did a master plan, did a model of our distribution system, and identified where we had some inadequacies as far as the distribution system. The reason for those inadequacies is the fact that the East Water Plant used to be the main treatment plant for the city, and because those pipes are larger than they need to be, we end up seeing lower chemicals that we need to, and those will be replaced as part of this project. And then well generators and variable frequency drive replacement. This is just to replace some of the equipment at our well sites that is at the end of its useful life. Most of that equipment was installed as part of the nano filtration that was done in the early 2000s. And then we have we have a pickup truck.
Any questions on the utility portion of the CIP?
What about the pickup truck?
Okay, and I'm going to take a moment to pause. I probably should have started off with this, but we are doing a little bit of pinch hitting this evening and tomorrow. Obviously, we have an interim CFO, so I did the front half of the presentation. Mr. McHugh will be giving the finance portion of the presentation, but also Rodney Brimlow is out of the office for medical reason, and so he won't be with us during this presentation either. As well as Eric Power, who planned a vacation over a year ago, told me exactly when it was, knew that we had the budget workshops, and just could not work around his schedule to do these. So he gets a pass from me, and we'll get his better half, who is his assistant director, and we'll go from there. But in case there's any questions, particularly on this one, because the solid waste item with the building security, we do have some issues with theft over at Central City Campus. Although it is a secure facility from the standpoint that we have a large fence around it, we have had instances of theft, small engine equipment, some of our landscape trailers have been broken into from time to time. We had someone run off with a golf cart at some point. So this project would put a camera system in there that would protect our assets a heck of a lot better and be directly linked into our OTIC over at law enforcement headquarters. This project entails the design and furnishing and installation of a ventilation gas system within the fleet garage. So now that we are, and you'll see in a slide tomorrow, we are, a couple years ago, we came to you with doing a hybrid approach to our fleet mechanics, right? And we said that this is hopefully a Band-Aid that we'll be able to rip off at a later date. We were having a lot of issues at that time with getting mechanics and so on and so forth. So we're at a point now where we have the ability to cancel that contract and save money. We are almost fully staffed in the fleet garage, thank goodness. But as part of that, now that we are doing a lot more with our CNG fleet, we need to upgrade the ventilation system. We need to upgrade the ventilation system in that fleet garage. So the cost of that is $50,000. And this is the vehicle replacement schedule for solid waste in the coming year. Can you just go back? So we have one automated side loader. The FEL is at the front end loader. Okay, front end loader, and pickup, one roll off, and then the miscellaneous shred trailer. So you know that we used to have the shred program at the recycling drop-off center. We have, since that time, we have been doing, once that shredder was obsolete and no longer, we could no longer repair it, we got rid of it and we brought in a contractor who is doing quarterly shred events. This would allow us to expand that to our residents on a more regular basis rather than just quarterly. We could certainly, obviously with this equipment, still do the quarterly ones throughout the city, but it would be available at the recycling center. And we thought that this was a benefit that our residents really liked when we had it, and we'd like to bring it back. Within the stormwater fund, for this year, it's rather light. This is a reoccurring expense of $400,000 for unanticipated stormwater projects that we need to address. How many times have we gotten a call from a resident? As a matter of fact, I think we got one yesterday about a stormwater situation where it's not properly drained. And we can assess those things, and we don't need major large projects like we're doing on 8th Ave or out in Deer Run. This is the funding that provides us the mechanism to install a drainage structure or address water flow issues and those sorts of particular unanticipated things that we see throughout the year. We're not going to go into the CRA in detail. As you know this from just recently, you've got your two projects that are part of the overall CIP, which is the S-Curve utility project and of course the Sullivan Park facility project, which you approved last night.
I do have a question regarding that. On the S-curve utility undergrounding and streetscape, you've got for 2025, 1.2 million. We've already done all the undergrounding. Is this for everything else that goes with it?
I believe this is the carry forward. Yes, this is the carry forward for next year. So the funding will come, this is not new funding, it's carry forward into FY
Okay.
25.
Okay. One other question we talked about, and to go back, slide number 8, you talked about the second floor of the building and overcrowding.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tigner.
Did I say Tigner?
You mentioned Tigner in there when talking about that, looking at how to solve
Oh, yeah.
overcrowding. I want to make
Correct.
sure that we're not moving people into the new Tigner Center, because that space is supposed to be used for community space and not for new facilities for staff.
No, it's certainly the community center, but there are offices in there, and there are going to be a small group of individuals who are moving over to the Tigner Center to man it. But it is not being overrun to, you know, it's not becoming staff's, it's a community center. There is offices in the building as well.
Okay, because we talked about this. I want to make sure that that's clear. I know there were some people that were saying that's what was going to happen, so I want to make sure. I'll just say this in the mic, I'm sorry. I want to make sure, because there was some mention of that, there were some concerns that people were saying that that's what's going to happen. We want to make sure that this is not.
It is designed as approved by the city commission. It has certain office spaces. It has a large amount of community space.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we want to take a break before we move into the next portion of it?
That's something. You just was talking about the situation with the cameras over at Triple C, and the fact that we've had on city property vandalized and items stolen. I'm going to encourage you again to look at the lighting, because it's hard for me to believe that someone with an area that's well lit is going to try to steal. It's probably in a low area where the lighting is low. People like to do things in the dark. And so I think the camera addition proposal is a good thing, but what else can we do to ensure that we've done the most that we can do? And that is to make it bright, discourage it by just, additional lighting.
Thank you. Well, I'll take a look at that and make sure it's adequate. Yes.
Would you get back with me and let me know what that looks like? Thank you.
Do we want to take a brief break before we move into
I'm
departmental?
happy to do that.
Okay, let's just take a 5-minute break, come back at 7:41, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to come back, please. Are we ready? All right, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to go ahead and continue on with the department level budget presentations for the administrative departments. Mr. McHugh is going to go ahead and give us the presentation for financial services.
So good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners, and in the absence of a CFO, I have the pleasure of talking about all the great things that the Finance Department is doing. Some of the things that we're proud of is particularly this last year, we've got the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and this is the 28th consecutive year that we've gotten that. We also got the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award this past year, and this is the 43rd year we've gotten that. We just completed our ACPR, which is an audit of our financial statements and documents, and that's going to be presented to you at the next commission meeting. And the auditors have determined that we did have a clean audit with no findings, no recommendations, and no concerns. We've implemented the OpenGov budget and planning software, which will help to enhance reporting and improve the budgeting process. And the debt issuance management system, we have done some of that, gotten some favorable bond ratings and favorable rates in terms of the debt issuance that we have done and managing the debt. The ERP implementation and training, we talked about that. That is ongoing, and that's going to be ongoing for a year and a half. And even after that, testing and potentially putting in other modules. We have implemented new GASB standards and pronouncements, and this particular one is capturing software subscriptions. One of the other things we've accomplished is recruitment and the hiring of a purchasing manager as well as a CFO. I think an offer was made to one, and he is accepted. So we look forward to the manager looks forward to bringing that to you pretty shortly. Additionally, although we mentioned the purchasing manager and CFO, we've had absences. We also filled the financial services manager, senior accountant. We've had a number of vacancies in a number of positions there. We've completed a procurement roadmap and strategic plan. We had a consultant do an assessment of the area, identify some areas of improvements, areas of efficiencies, and some recommendations that would be forthcoming. And we have successfully worked with the environmental staff in terms of the meters that they have replaced the AMI meters, and successfully integrated that in terms of the conversion, reading, billing, and move forward with that. For next year, one of the goals, we anticipate going live with the ERP in January. We anticipate completing our cost allocation plan, and that will identify the appropriate portions of certain expenditures that should be charged back to departments and funds. We plan on implementing interactive voice recording, and that allows for processing of payments, especially by those either disabled seniors or challenged one way or another. And we've had some requests for that. We propose a purchasing rebate program with certain vendors. We propose hosting vendor network expos, and we anticipate updating policies and procedures. We talked about fund balance and some others to deal with best practices, compliance, and address regulations. This is a departmental-wide budget, and you'll see that the net change here is in the region of about 400,000, 58 of the utilities fund and 376. Globally, the bigger expenditures are the addition of one person in the procurement division and allocation of insurance and other personnel costs attributed to pension and COLAs and FICA. For the accounting and treasury division, some of the highlights in terms of the changes is this year, we had contractual services of about 300,000 because of the absence of staff, either contractual or temporary services. Next year this year we saw an increase of about $800 in auditing services and an additional 32,000 for the recruitment of CFO. Increase in personnel costs. You'll see this in all the departments. In this particular division, it's 113,000. And because of the difficulty in the market, we've been tasked with budgeting and paying at a higher level for the new hires because that's the nature of the market now. For the budgeted and performance management division, we had temporary expenditures to the tune of 82,000 this year, increase in insurance allocation, and $6,700 in software, and the reduction in printing costs. And this is in the purchasing and contract administration, the new position we propose will assist us in dealing with the increased projects and programs and demands that we're having with staff and help move the procurement process through, the insurance allocation. And then last year, we had contract services to the tune of 225,000, either due to the vacancy or due to the assessment that we had done. So we'll not have that in next year's budget, and the vendor outreach program. And then in the customer service, the allocation of 3,500 for 300 for insurance. So that's a summary of the highlights of the financial services department.
Commissioner Drosky, any questions, comments?
I don't have any questions, nor do I tend to really have many tonight, because my agenda says that this is a workshop. And a workshop to me is kind of a give and go, give and take between the commission and staff. But I just received this book when I sat down tonight, and the CIP project request was in my packet, late Friday when I received it. So to prepare and have that back and forth tonight, is not reasonable. So this to me is just a 4-hour infomercial. I'm going to take good notes and then follow up in the following weeks and months. But to have any meaningful dialogue tonight, that's ridiculous.
District 3, District 2, District 1.
Just a quick comment. On slide 30, personnel services went from 500,000 to over 700,000, and it shows the new position is just 99,000. So where's the extra 100,000?
So across the board, we have had an insurance services allocation increase of 33%. Okay, so across the entire organization from 9.4 million to 12.5 million. Additionally,
Isn't that the 59-1? That's the second bullet point?
Correct. So you
That's 150 grand, so there's still another 50 grand. I was just curious.
Okay, so then we are in labor negotiations, so we have an estimation on COLA and merit increases. Which I'm not sure if that makes up the exact total of that, but you also have other factors like FICA and various other things that are included in that.
Just one question that I had on page 31, talking about customer service. I noticed there's a reduction there in our operating expenditures, but last year we had an increase due to postage increase. I know there's been at least 2 postage increases this year. Reduction is due to the equipment lease agreement play, so I would imagine that absorbs any of the cost of the postage increase.
It does.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Lindsay. I'm the Human Resources Director. So reporting out for Human Resources, one of the things I wanted to say is, as an HR office, we do have a core mission for the organization, and that is to put our efforts into attracting and to retaining staff, and to make sure that the experience for an employee is on a positive side. So in doing so, these achievements help us to realize what that mission is. So the first thing that you'll see here is the implementation of the pay and class study. You're well aware that that program had been planned and had been implemented. And what that does is to give us a good leg into the market and give us good parity situation for our organization with the market. That resulted in a 6% pay increase to our pay plan. That implementation doesn't stand by itself just on the pay. The back end pieces that go into that are things like, making sure that we are doing some alignment with our job description, and so that the duties on the job description align with what the market says we should be paying for those types of duties. And also just looking at the overall benefits package for all staff. So the pay and class study really gave us a good placement in the market to help better attract and retain employees. Another thing that we look at is once someone comes on board, we have to look at what are the issues that one could have as a worker. So with our workers' comp program, this is how we protect employees when they do get injured on the job. And so we look to have a good safety rating. And in the efforts that have been put forth, we have improved our safety rating with the state. And how we are doing that is through having some proactivity in our training, as not just on the front end, but we are also looking to have training on the back end. So after an incident, we still do train as well, just to reinforce, what the safety mechanisms are. And we also look at overall, what are the causes of accidents? And so we look at trends, and those trends also help to dictate what type of training we want to do for staff. Another piece of enhancing that work experience for the workers is looking at the buildings, how are we ensuring that we have the proper level of insurance for our buildings? And we do what we call an asset survey, and that allows us to look at, what are the contents within our buildings, what the structure is, to make sure that we are looking at getting the right level of insurance for our structures. And that helps us to improve our deductibles as well. Tied to, that total compensation grid, if you want to call it that, you look at the pay. You also have to look at the health benefits. So when you look at a total compensation package, it's not just the pay, it's also what we do for our health perspective. So we've been looking at some long-term preventative health efforts through wellness. And in doing so, we are now engaging a lot of on-site preventative opportunities, such as doing mobile dermatology buses, as well as mobile mammogram buses, just bringing those services on-site, making it easier for employees to engage in those wellness activities. Looking at how we give feedback to our employees. So we implemented a new performance evaluation document. We've only rolled that out to non-bargaining employees, because obviously with the bargaining units, you do have to have that conversation with them. But we are looking at a program now that does a better job of providing more detailed and qualitative documentation of performance. We want to use these tools to help with promotional opportunities, and the feedback in these documents can help to dictate that for staff. One other thing that we've done is looking at our policies and procedures. Once again, when you make these improvements and you are addressing being compliant with various aspects of the workforce, you must look at your policies and procedures and look to update those. We've been actively involved in looking at, making that work-life experience for employees a better aspect. So we've been looking at our remote work policies, as well as expanding various alternative work schedules that will ultimately give us a better leg in the market as well. And lastly, in terms of achievements, we've looked at enhancements to our overall recruitment process, and not just to recruit, but it's a total onboarding process as well. So we have done something what I call as a visible career path. And what that means is you'll take a job such as a planner job, and you'll create a visible path. So employees, when they are in one level of a job, they could see where they can grow. So the planner job as an example, we've done a planner 1, a planner 2, and a planner 3, so that gives that visible career path for workers to know, okay, here's what I need to do in order to get to the next level and the next level. So we've done that across, I would say right now, 2 different job families, which is the planner job family and our mechanic job family. We've also done a revamp on our new employee orientation program. Once again, given from the very first day that employee a positive outlook on the organization that they've just decided to join. So we do have a new revamped program there as well. And we're also looking to launch into a new hire survey, which is where we get feedback 60 days in, 90 days in from a new employee, just to get feedback to see how further improvements can happen. Things that we want to tackle in the year to come. It's been mentioned before, the ERP, the Tyler implementation that is ongoing, and the HR department is set to join in on that initiative very shortly in July. We are also looking at creating a more robust training initiative across all platforms. And when I say across all platforms, we're looking at every job function. We're looking to create training by topic, by a job function, also looking at the supervisory org. So we're introducing training for first-time supervisory level jobs, as well as higher level leadership positions as well. So just to bring more robust training. Once again, these things will lead to the ability to be promoted and have, a better leg on various opportunities. We currently use an automated tool for recruitment. So when you see a job posted, it's being powered by a system called NeoGov, but it has a much more robust function. And so we're looking now to tap into using that tool more robustly. So we're looking to do a full automation of that product by incorporating our job requisition process. We do it now, but in a very small piloted way. So we want to expand that and make sure we're using it. It'll help us to also cut down on paper. And so for efficiency standpoint, that's a better tool to make sure that we can keep an eye on, okay, why is this recruitment taking so long? And this tool will help us to see where is a request right now through the automatic or the dynamic approval process. On the risk side, so we continue to do preventative risk safety training. We do these trainings annually. We do them by position, and we do them post-accident or post-incident. We look at trends to determine what training would be necessary, and we also engage field experts or external vendor or experts in the field where we feel it's needed to come on to do the training as well. So, you know, we continue to make those preventative training efforts just to make the workplace a safer environment for everyone. It was mentioned before that we are at the throes of the end of our current contract with the 2 collective bargaining agreements that we have. And so efforts are being made for the new successor agreement. And lastly, you know, we wouldn't be prudent if we're not going out to market for insurance services just to see what the market holds. So we do go out to market and just see, you know, what is out there and making sure that we're doing that due diligence as well. In looking at the budget, the overall budget, you'll notice an 11% increase. I know it's, when you look on the slide in the middle there, you see savings of 55%, 52%. You're wondering, okay, where is that money? So I'll be explaining that in a little bit more detail as we move forward through the other slides. All right, from the HR personal services budget, as mentioned before as well, an uptick or an increase in the insurance services just due to the ongoing increase in coverage for like health coverage and things like that. And these are across all departments, as was mentioned before as well. And you'll see that we've had now a reduction in some of the legal or contractual services. It was explained that we've used a lot of third-party vendors to help us with implementation of various things like the pay and class study. And now that that's over, that's where you're now seeing a reduction in that because, you know, it's over and we've implemented. So moving forward, we should be a little bit more steady. And on this slide, I will go into a little bit more detail about the savings that you see. So we have had a directive in which we needed to unbundle some of the way that we show our funds. And in particular, with the insurance services fund, we needed to unbundle the medical side of things. So in addressing the OIG directive, this is where you're now seeing where the savings are going to go. So they're being unbundled from the insurance services fund, and they're now being placed in their own fund called medical insurance fund. So all of the savings that you see there really is just being transplanted and split out differently. But to also address what's been said before, yes, there is an uptick in the general insurance services by about $1 million, and there we're looking at, you know, just the general trend. These things are always going up from year to year. So looking at the general trend there, as well as our total insurance value, we've had some new buildings, new construction. So when you have those new buildings, the insurance rate is going to be different than from the older building that we just gave up. So that's some of the attributes to the $1 million. And also from the medical insurance side, what we're finding is that employees are actually using the medical insurance quite robustly. And that's why we are seeing some of that $2.2 million increase. Employees are actually staying on the job longer. And so they're not retiring as, you know, what is typically or traditionally planned. And so with that, the longer they stay in the workplace, we have the chance of having, increased usage of the medical plan. And those costs for usage are also going up.
Thank you very much. District 4, any questions? District 3?
Thank you. You led with, we want to make it a positive experience, for the employees, and there was another point that you had made, but yet it was not one of the bullets. It would be nice if, you know what I'm referring to? On page 34, the first bullet is the pay in class study implementation, but prior to that, you were talking about what you seek to do in terms of, you know, how you want the employee to be dealt with and that sort of thing. And I think those were positive points. They should have been part of the bullet, in my opinion.
District 1? Okay, thank you very much.
Next, we have Ron McKenzie with Information Technology Services.
Kenzie, Information Technology Services. Our major achievements for fiscal '24, enterprise-wide, we developed a rapid assessment reporting app for emergency management. It allows some real-time reporting in case things happen, so we can get assessments right on time and see what's happening in case any incident happens, especially if a storm or something like that happens.
We actually used it today.
Yeah, we work. The audiovisual upgrade in the commission chambers, as you all have seen. So now we can have Zoom conferences and things are really great. Support expansion of city facilities, Signer, BCAA, WCC, of course, we're involved in those things. Implemented the guest Wi-Fi network in City Hall, Fire Station 102 and Band C, and centralized access control. So now there's one card that we had. Before there was a card for one place and another one for a different place. So now there's one access card, as we know, that we have throughout. As it relates to automation, you've been hearing about AMI and AMR. We also are obviously involved in the support for that particular project. And we implemented the audit trail and quick fields agent and Laserfish so that we can track things and make sure that we know who's doing what when.
Just real quick, that particular project is the legwork to do the online plan review, which is a goal for FY25 in planning department.
As it relates to cybersecurity, many things happen. One of the things, as you know, we're very serious about as it relates to training. If you don't do training, we obviously will disconnect you. So as it relates to training, there's been some mandates that have come down as it relates to training, and that's to make sure that managers and above were being trained. And so we had a great sponsor and advocate in the city manager, and so we did training throughout the city, and so we actually did training for managers and above. And as it stands currently, we have the highest percentage of managers and above that have been trained at a higher level of security to have the better understanding in the entire state. In addition to that, we were able to do training for other municipalities right here at HTC, and they came so that they can also do training for their managers and above. We implemented various security systems that we have the new product for vulnerability assessment and scanning. We have successfully deployed a backup system with encryption, deduplication, and additional layers of security access. We implemented products to centralize and correlate security logs from diverse sources. We deployed new endpoint detection on each and every device to make sure that we're trying to be solid and secure and safe against malware, ransomware, and other advanced threats. Next slide, please. Thank you. Obviously, we're deeply involved in the ERP rollout. The new position that you allowed us to have or you passed has been doing a really great job as it comes to that and leading as far as it goes to that ERP project and keeping us on time. Some of the other goals that we have, of course, is to keep that up, but the other goal is to obtain knowledge, develop policies, and manage artificial intelligence. AI is huge. We definitely want to make sure that we're not on the bleeding edge, but we are on the leading edge. And so we're looking, we're understanding, and we expect more mandates to come down from the state on how to handle that. That's some of the biggest questions, to make sure that we do it, but we do it safely. To meet and exceed any state cybersecurity mandates, as we have been, as you know, there was one, the attestation that had to happen, the resolution that you all passed, and making sure that we stay on top of everything that the state puts out as it relates to cybersecurity.
Just on that note, the Broward County Inspector General recently asked for a public record request from all cities in Broward County to provide that. And frankly, many did not have that attestation, so we were in good shape.
No, you're good. We've also implemented additional security tools, and we need to continue to do that, just like the old Get Smart TV show, where there were many different tools that they had to get in to make it safe. That's one of the major ways that we do. And so on the next slide, you'll see some of those additional tools that we're looking at for fiscal 25 to make sure that we keep us safe. Also for fiscal 25, to make sure we're in compliance with state and federal mandates. As I spoke before, there'll probably be something that comes down from AI, but there's also mandates that continue to come down, and we continue to meet or exceed those mandates. I want to make sure that we support all departments and initiatives securely and safely. As I spoke on the slide before, and some of the other projects that we had, IT is actually involved in many of those things to make sure that people can communicate. And of course, to increase data redundancy and security by expanding the cloud-based virtual server. You'll see more about that on the next slide also. Okay, you'll see more on the next slide. This is our budget, and as you can see, as far as the overall change, it's a 21% change, and it breaks down the different things. As you look to our personnel services, we'd like to add a new assistant director of IT services. As IT goes, the resources, as well as the tools and everything like that, continue to increase. Obviously, in order to support, we also need additional people to make sure that we support, and talented people. And so we put into a new assistant director. Just like our systems need redundancy, so too do our resources, our people. The increased insurance, as you've seen for every slide, shows that dollar amount. Operating expenditures, and that's what I spoke about with some of the tools that we have for cybersecurity. A password manager system that we're asking for, secure access remote, which is about $50K. Privilege access. Privilege access is access for IT people to access highly classified type things inside the system so other people can't get to it. Network access control, so we can manage things that are happening. Kiosk software. Kiosk software is like you go to a library or something like that, you'll be able, when you log into the library, if you leave from that desk, it starts the session all over again. And so we're looking to do that from kiosks that we use here so that people can be safe each time they log on. It'll be a new experience and they won't be able to do anything crazy. And moving that VM to the cloud, that's the other thing that I spoke about on the other slide. That's the virtual cloud. What happens now is if something happened in 102, let's just say electrical shortage or something like that, people won't be able to connect. So we're looking to move so that you can access, move our virtual server into the cloud, at least some instance in the cloud, so you can authenticate and be able to have access to authenticate, like I said, and be able to have some of your files and be able to work. It's a redundancy thing. Just like we try to do redundancy here, we have to do redundancy everywhere so that you can connect and make sure things happen, and that's what we're asking for there. The rest is the normal 5 to 7% in existing software. The capital outlay is what Dave spoke about early. That's to replace the obsolete door locking system in City Hall. That's the presentation for IT. Any questions?
District 4, 3, 2.
Yes. Oh, at first glance, when you look at a 21% increase, you know, some may think that, you know, somewhat absorbent, but I want to tell you, you know, Mr. McKenzie, you have kept us safe. I listened to different news reports where big cities have to pay in the millions for them not doing a lot of the things that you have implemented in the city of Deerfield Beach. You have kept us safe, and we should be very happy that we have not fallen victim, you know. So, you know, I know that you're not going to ask for something that is not necessary and that's not needed to continue that trend. And so, you know, I'm not one that was a fan of your training, okay? I'm just saying, you know, I can fish with the best of them right now. But you know what? I got better. I got better. The traps that that would just pop up randomly, and I knew not to answer it. You know, that would in turn make my city, because I made a careless move, put my city in jeopardy, and I really appreciate that. You kept us safe, so I think that what you're asking for is to continue doing what you have already done, and I'm glad Deerfield Beach has been safe. That's a good thing. And recently, I was listening to some city that had to pay the people millions of dollars to get their information back. That's never happened to us. There's a reason why it hasn't happened to us. Thank God. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. District one? Okay. For the sake of time, it is something we all discussed with the city manager regarding the need for the assistant director of IT services to go over that. Everything else, fine. One of my other jobs I have, I work for the NFL, and our technology training is insanely intense. You rival what you do. So thank you for that, but we want to make sure that that trend continues, because as Commissioner Preston pointed out, we've got a lot of issues with cities being held hostage on that. So whatever we can do to make sure that that is taken care of. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Next, we have Heather Montemayor, our city clerk.
Right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Heather Monmayer, City Clerk, for the record. Our fiscal year 24 achievements include upgrading our Dispoya system, which we use to route public records requests. This upgrade was actually approved last year. It has allowed for a more efficient process, especially when it comes to the review of the responsive documents. We're able now to redact the documents right in the system, and also we're able to review the emails through PSP files right through the Dispoya system. We also implemented website advertising, which provided a reduction in our operating expenses, which you will see on a future slide. We also reduced the number of code supplements. Every quarter, we receive hard copies of the Code of Ordinances and Land Development Code changes, which has become costly. Therefore, we reduced the hard copy supplements and have encouraged individuals to use the online option, which we also pay for. We are almost done with our advisory handbook. It's actually in legal's hands, which should provide better clarity as to what is expected of each board member. We also completed our redistricting and will soon be working with our GIS team to get the map updated so we can replace it on our website for the March 2025 citywide election. We want to hold off right now because there isn't an election in November and we don't want to cause any confusion. We've processed over 400 recordings. These recordings include liens, sidewalk waivers, easement agreements, as well as others. And we have processed over 2,400 public records requests. I'm happy to announce 97% of those requests were completed within 7 to 10 business days, which is a huge accomplishment for the entire city.
Just real quick, I want to give some context to 2,400 public records requests. There are cities much larger than us who don't have nearly that many public records requests that are processed through the city clerk's office. So it's tremendous. They do a good job doing it.
Okay. Our fiscal year 25 goals consist of the creation of electronic records management policy. This policy will hopefully provide policies and procedures to all staff as to how to manage their electronic records. Departments have done an outstanding job with ensuring we are keeping up to date with archiving and storing our paper records, but it seems that the electronic record keeping has gotten a little out of hand. People are using the Drive and Laserfish, which is our electronic records repository system, kind of as a dumping ground. Our current offsite records storage contract will be expiring in September 2024. So we will be looking into alternative options to store our off-site records. Unfortunately, the customer service aspect of our current vendor has really gone downhill as the turnaround time for delivering boxes and files has declined. We will be working with IT and Parks to hopefully upgrade this facility. We are hoping to have a similar setup as the commission chambers to improve the audio and visual quality and make it easier for all involved to set up, record, and host public meetings. We will also be working with IT on the implementation of the QR code for the public to access the commission agendas via their phone during the commission meetings. This will assist with the amount of paper we are using to print hard copy agendas, and will also allow the public to view the agenda backup during the commission meetings, which will hopefully alleviate some of the questions and concerns that are brought forward during the meeting. We will be working with ES, Environmental Services, on implementing a payment system with Broward County. So individuals who file for sidewalk waivers, hold harmless agreements, or utility easements can submit their payments directly to Broward County Recording Division. We recently had an issue where an individual's check bounced and the county held the city responsible and wouldn't process any of our other documents until another check was cleared and resent. Employee development, the record specialist has been doing an amazing job working with each department to ensure their records are properly archived and stored. So she'll be working towards receiving her certified records manager designation this upcoming year. This will actually be the first time since I've been with the city that we will have someone who is record certified. So I'm excited about that. Also, our assistant city clerk is relatively new. So she will be actively partaking in various courses to help to have a better understanding of the election laws, public records laws, records management, as well as others. And last but certainly not least, clerk staff will be preparing for the March 2025 citywide election. Okay, our operating budget, as mentioned, there's a slight increase in personnel services due to the increase in insurance services. And then, as I mentioned before, there is a slight decrease to the operating expenditures due to the implementation of website advertising and a decrease in the codification, which were the code supplements I mentioned earlier. And lastly, the election budget obviously increased because we did not have an election this past year.
Thank you. Any questions from District 4? 3, 2, 1. The only question that I have is regarding one of last year's goals was lobbyist registration, having electronic submission and payment. Do we implement that?
We did not. I want to wait until the new ERP system is up and running and hopefully integrate it with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Rebecca Medina Stewart, Public Affairs and Marketing Director. Okay. Jumping right into our fiscal 24 achievements, we produced several proof of performance videos for high-profile projects like the Beach Renourishment Project last year, the beach and pier renovations of recent, the Braithwaite Project from start to finish, the 95-gallon cart swap, and the AMI project. And we have seen some really impressive engagement and interactions on this work with residents and visitors across social media and email and our newsletters. In graphics, aside from our day-to-day graphics, we've also completed graphics for things like our Sharp branding, the Vision Zero project. That was the book that we designed the book for that. And that was a project that took several months. We also have just begun some of the design for the Centennial graphics package that you are seeing some of it tonight. I wish it was in better color up there, but anyway, I'm not going to complain. We also rebranded the city newsletter. It's now called the Buckygram. Our total social communications reach is up 33%. And we're going to take a look at some of those numbers here in a few minutes. The launch of the Arboretum Bird and Zen cameras will be happening sometime over the next couple of weeks. Those two things are ready to go. We are actually producing a promos for that. And we also found out about a week and a half ago that we are the winners of the 2024 Silver Communicator Award of Distinction for the composting pilot, which was hugely popular in our community. And we are the winners of the Silver Telly for our Junior Anglers event coverage and a Bronze Telly for the Shop with the Sheriff events coverage. Fiscal 25 goals. We will be working with IT next fiscal year to implement a media cloud storage facility for our media files. The reason this is important is because it's going to help us in our office improve our workflow by giving our department simultaneous access to these files. Right now, we have these files saved on hard drives in a box, so it makes it a little difficult when we go looking for specific files. We'll also be lending some departmental support for essential projects listed in the strategic plan. Things like composting, which we've already started, the Dune program, Central City redevelopment, and several economic development measures. We are also going to be taking on the centennial marketing for the upcoming centennial, obviously. And this is a pretty significant undertaking for my staff above and beyond the day-to-day functions of the department. We have requested additional personnel for this next fiscal year. We've requested a full-time digital marketing specialist and a part-time admin. And we hope that with these new team members that we can hit some of the last few goals that we've listed here for fiscal 25. The first being the implementation, of course, of a digital marketing campaign strategy this fiscal year. That strategy is completed and written. It just hasn't been executed yet. And we are hoping that with the help of a digital marketing specialist, we'll be able to do that. We would like to finish creating the Destination Deerfield Beach channel on YouTube. And this, of course, is a tourism-focused channel for visitors to find information on places to stay, eat, drink, and play in Deerfield Beach. We are also hoping this year will be the year that we'll be able to launch the text notification tool, which we hoped to do this year. We have not done that this year because we haven't had enough staff really to just implement the manual inputting of names and addresses and emails. And so we hope to do that this year. Next slide. This slide, so this is word art, obviously. And the reason I included this slide in my presentation this year is because there is a common misconception that my department, for the most part, is busy on Facebook all day or on Instagram. And while social media is a big part of what we do, it's one of many things that we do for our residents and our visitors. For example, on that slide, Boss Desk is on there, and Boss Desk is a tool that we use. It's a tracking tool that we use to oversee every request that comes into my department from every other department in Deerfield Beach, because we do serve as a support department to the city, to city departments. And what do they request? They request graphics, public notifications, social media communication, website support, and videography. Many of the tickets that are put into Boss Desk are for projects that take weeks and sometimes months to complete. Projects like the strategic plan design, projects like composting, marketing campaigns, and the Braithwaite grand opening marketing campaign. And speaking of marketing campaigns, which is also represented up there, that's another very important function of my department. Whether it's educational, informational, or promotional, it's important to get these out. And again, from strategy to social calendars, to video and graphic production, to launch, these are projects that take weeks to sometimes months to complete. Next slide. So I wanted to take a look at some of the analytics in what I just mentioned, which was Boss Desk. We implemented Boss Desk, our tracking tool, in 2019. And when we ended that year, that fiscal year, we ended that fiscal year with 498 tickets that were put into our department that year. When we ended fiscal year 23, we ended with 764 tickets that were implemented. That number has grown 53% since 2019. This year, we've already hit 700. And the average, what we're averaging right now, we're looking to probably surpass 900 tickets put into Boss Desk this year for the projects that I just talked about. Things like graphics, things like marketing campaigns, things like designs for Vision Zero books and strategic plans. And so that number has grown much more significantly than I ever anticipated. The numbers in the middle, the two sets of bars in the middle, that's our social media reach. Total social media reach across Facebook and Instagram is up 33%, which is, and you can take a look at the numbers for yourself, from 4.6 to 6.1 million this fiscal year. Our social media reach is growing regularly and steadily. That said, our Instagram numbers, which is Instagram was, as I've mentioned in past presentations, Instagram is a platform that we implemented to attract a different demographic, a younger demographic. And it has grown exponentially in the last few years, but it has slowed in the last year and a half to 2 years. One of the reasons that is because we haven't really been able to dedicate the time to implementing that as a lifestyle tool and merging it with the Destination Deerfield Beach project. And so that is something that we are hoping with a digital media strategy and with a digital media specialist, we'll be able to make that happen next fiscal year. I'm also happy to report that our city website continues to perform. And as you can see the numbers there, it is a tool that our citizenry understands as a place for information. And it is one of the most highly trafficked websites that Civic Plus hosts currently. And I believe that our our webmaster has done a tremendous job just with design and function and searchability on this, which has really helped our numbers. Next slide. So these are my operating expenses, and as you can see, my increases come from insurance and the 2 new employees that I've requested for my department. And with that, any questions?
Thank you. District 4? Okay, 2?
I personally like it when I'm in other cities and they talk about our media, the things that we're doing in Deerfield Beach. The underwater cam was a hit all over the place. And we were doing something that nobody else was doing. And I look at the city events, which are multiple, and I watch how our media department respond, always there. I mean, you got people that I've seen, interviewing people when they were just dripping wet with sweat, trying to do a good job. So this is a shining light for us. I don't want it to go away. I want it to be good. And so I look at this, you ask for one position, and then the PT obviously tells me it's part-time. I just don't want to overwork people so that they're going. We have a issue with sometimes putting a thumb on people, asking them to do more, and then they end up leaving. I think if you tell me that we're good, then I take it. But I think that in order to keep what we got and to grow it, maybe that part-time person should be a full-time person. Any response? Anybody?
Make sure your mic's on.
What,
Thank
the
you.
question, is the question related to the two positions that are being
Yes,
requested?
that's the question.
So,
But here's what I'm saying. I want to be clear.
okay,
I don't want to overwork. We have a department that's doing an outstanding job. And if we don't put the people in positions so that this may grow and be a shining light for us, then it may go down. I want to make sure that this department continues to grow and produce as it is. But it seems to me, I even think sometimes that the people that we have that are out that I see all the time, never mind the work that's being done behind the background, that this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. So I'm not so convinced to be able to keep something that we have that is good, not let it go away, or put too much pressure in that department. Maybe, you know, like I'm asking, I think it might be a better thing if we look at, unless I'm being told that we just don't need that person full time.
you want to address that?
Yes. I could absolutely use a full-time employee, if that's what you're asking me.
That's what I'm asking you.
If that's what you're asking me, that's exactly what I could use. However, that said, because I know that budgets are tight, and I've been at the city of Deerfield Beach. I've sat through 11 budget seasons. And I know behind the scenes how hard it is for our staff to put these budgets together and make these things work. And so this is my way of trying to compromise and hopefully get some help that we need in our office.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we have something like a crown in Deerfield Beach. So I understand the challenges there are with budgets, and there are. But whatever we got that is good, let's keep it. If you need 2 people, you should ask for it. We want to keep, we got something good going here. I'm up in Stewart, and they're talking about things that are happening here in Deerfield Beach. So that's just my opinion. I think that, you know, if you can operate better with 2 full-time people, you know, over the years, you've basically asked for nothing. So we need to do that to ensure that whatever we're doing good right now will continue to be good, continue to grow, and continue to be a bright light for us. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. District 1. Real quick. Last year, you talked about the use of AI. Have we abandoned that, or is that something we're still exploring?
Yeah, I've had many conversations with Ron about that. And my communications manager and I have sat through several conferences, and webinars on AI. We're currently using some AI in our office now. There's a lot of tools that we use, currently design tools that already have AI implemented in it. In terms of the newer AI tools, the more recent ones, Ron didn't say no, he just said not yet.
Well, I think that's what Commissioner Preston said last year also, so that's all right. Be careful of it. I think there's a lot of intelligence that's artificial around here sometimes, so I think that's all right. When it comes to Alert Deerfield Beach,
Yeah.
I know that it was a change in that. We've abandoned that, so you've come up with other uses to do.
So Alert Deerfield Beach, I think you all remember last year they had that big snafu. Well, it looks as though they've stayed on. They went out for bid again with the state, and so there haven't been changes there. We haven't had any changes, and in fact, to be honest with you, those numbers continue to grow and increase, which is really good for crisis management.
Okay. You talked about 2 things that were rollovers: Launch Destination Deerfield Beach Channel and the Launch Text Notification Tool.
Yes.
While those are rollovers, there's certainly a lot more achievements than even what you had planned last year during our budget hearing. So I understand the growth there. You guys were splitting an administrative support specialist with Ocean Rescue for the minutes last year. Did
Yeah.
that ever happen?
No, that didn't happen.
Okay, so you don't have one at all?
No, correct.
Administrative specialist. And the digital marketing specialist, I know we were outsourcing to someone for a little while. Is that person
We-
continuing to work that way?
Yes, but we've right-sized the department and her position in our department. Janine currently, handles she's our webmaster. She handles all of, our web management. She handles the management of
No,
our,
I'm just gonna pause
Okay.
you. You don't need to justify it. I want to make sure that that the digital marketing specialist is not a replacement for that position.
no, not at
Okay.
all, not at
Thank
all.
you.
No.
That's all, that's the
Okay.
only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Sunderson from our Planning and Development Services Department. He's our Assistant Director. I'd like to begin by thanking the city manager for never being able to be living down the phrase Eric's better at half, which is a much better joke than I was going to start with. So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. I'm Chris Sunderson, your Assistant Director for Planning and Development Services. Tonight, I appreciate the opportunity to review some of the department's goals for this year, as well as next, as well as supporting information for our budget proposal. One of the department's proudest accomplishments this year is the Vision Zero Master Plan Action Plan that came together with the assistance of a lot of different departments, including some of those that you heard from tonight. As you may know, Vision Zero aims to reduce the fatalities and injuries, serious injuries for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians on our roads to zero. The plan calls for implementation strategies such as broader education and better built environments where accidents occur more frequently. One of those strategies includes the Vision Zero website and dashboard, which was implemented with information from the Broward Sheriff's Office and the technical assistance of our IT department and the Transportation Working Group. With recent changes to the 40-year building safety inspection process, now requiring inspections to be performed at the 25-year mark, the building division was required to notice 535 properties. While that is essentially 15 years worth of building development in the city, those notices were completed well ahead of the December 2024 deadline imposed by the state legislature. Development reviews continue to keep the planning division busy with significant projects like Hillsborough Executive Center, Aldi's, Hyundai, and Chick-fil-A being approved since the beginning of the fiscal year. The department continues to develop the Northwest Area Improvement Plan, the Central City Corridor Outreach and Rezoning Project in partnership with the Economic Development Department, and an online development list in partnership with IT. You can look forward to those initiatives being completed in the coming months. Moving on to next year, the department will continue to move forward with the Vision Zero Master Plan. Several land development code changes are planned, including public notice and business uses and parking. With the approval of the department's Laserfish contract, we have forged a path to continue implementing online plan review. A major consideration for the department will be evaluation of the CGA contract for building services, which expires in September of 2025. In addition, the department will be reviewing fee schedules and impact fees in the coming year. Overall, the department's operating budget comes from three sources: the general fund, the building services fund, and the tree preservation trust fund. We are projecting slight increases from the general fund and building services fund and decrease in future revenues from the tree preservation trust fund as the city continues to be built out. The planning operating budget is projected to increase by 4% in FY25 over this past year. As mentioned in the departmental goals for next year, the department will be evaluating a variety of fees, including one to support a public art master plan. We will continue with Vision Zero planning, proposing conversions of county zoning districts to city zoning with land use amendments and rezoning, and begin a greenways master plan, which intends to improve pedestrian and bicycle connections to city and county parks and open space. In the building services operating budget, we are projecting a 7% increase in FY '25 over last year. The department is proposing physical improvements to the building division's offices for increased staff safety and better customer service actions that builds on the existing City Hall renovation project. I think you're gonna see that the City Hall project is a pretty amazing renovation for the cost that we're bringing in on. These costs are entirely covered by building permit revenue, projected to be at $5.8 million in FY '25. As you may know, not all permits are created equal in terms of cost. And major projects like Vista Clara, Hillsborough Executive Center, and the 1045 project will bring in much more revenue than a simple HVAC changeout. For FY '25, staff will be evaluating the building fund to meet required state statutes and include fees for private providers. So far this year, the department is on track to capture $5.7 million in building revenue, and we're projecting a $5.8 million revenue for next year. Revenues for the building services fund are driven by the number of permits the department issues, and we continue to be on track to around 8,000 for FY '24. The tree preservation fund is largely funded through tree removal. With limited vacant land in the city for new development and limited redevelopment of properties, tree removal revenues over the long term are expected to decrease. Current annual spending from the trust fund hovers around $25,000 a year, but can go as high as $50,000 for activities such as the semi-annual tree giveaways, the right to right place removal, and city-driven landscape improvements. Several projects, both planned and unanticipated, exceed the current fund balance, and we will likely need to be funding projects through the general fund in the coming years. With that, I appreciate your time this evening, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. District 4?
No.
1? The public art program that we talked about last year, do we have a public art program in place?
There is an existing public art program. You see boxes, electrical boxes wrapped. You see pieces that are on display. We capture some public art development proposals depending on the project.
I'm going to pause you because
sir.
those electrical boxes precede last year. Last year during our workshops, we talked about creating a public art program. Do we have a public art program in place that's been achieved this year?
We have a program in place, but what we don't have is a public art master plan. And through a public art master plan, we can establish how we want to proceed with public art throughout the city. And that's really the first step. And what's interesting is that recently at Commissioner Fisher's District 4 workshop, he had the gentleman from the Cultural Arts Department at Broward County. So I learned there that they offer actually grant programs to cities, and they've done this specifically with other cities in the past. So we have a meeting that I want to get on the schedule with him. I talked to him at the meeting, told him I'd be reaching out and getting with my staff. And so I'm looking to try to find out how we get in that grant cycle with him to see if we can have Broward County. And this is through the tourism development tax, which we know we never see a big part of anyway, right? So I'd like to see us get a grant from them to do the master plan. And then on top of that, they also do capital projects, which could include public art programming and infrastructure related to the well. So that's my kind of plan of attack to see if I can go after that money to get that master plan in place. They've done it with Wilton Manors, Oakland Park, and a few others that they mentioned to get that going.
Okay. I just want to make sure if that's going to be a rollover item, let's make sure that we have that. And as far as one of the things that we're looking to do in 2025, that we have the funding set up to actually implement it. Because while we might have this plan, I don't know what the difference between a plan and a master plan is.
Yeah.
It sounds like one's like cooler. I don't know. But whatever it is, let's make sure we roll that over and don't lose sight of that.
And so with that comment, I'm going to look at that grant funding, but if we can't, I'm going to see what funding it would potentially take and then explore that in the budget.
Yeah, well, if we had any money in the budget for it last year and we didn't, or
We did.
this current year, we didn't? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Way better than Eric, by the way, way better.
I'm the better half.
Just kidding, Eric.
Next, we have community service, Mr. Jonathan Salas.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, Jonathan Salas, Director of Community Services. And in community services, we educate, elevate, and cultivate our seniors. So I'm going to educate you a little bit about what we did in '24. So the new Breakaway Center was completed in February of 2024. As you all know, we did our ribbon cutting ceremony in May 11th to be exact. We had about 200 clients in attendance and community. Next, we have our adult daycare, which is growing. As you all know, we were closed during COVID, so we kind of started all new again. So currently we have 30 clients in there, as well as our senior center. We've seen an increase in our census. We have 400 clients registered now, and we have 150 clients attending on a daily basis. So next here we have the city. I'm proud to say that we were awarded the first ever municipal partner award through Broward County School Board. We received that award and we're very proud of it for all of our work we've done with the schools. And I think everyone's familiar with all of our programs, our reading clouds, student mates, principal roundtable, and all the things we do with our local schools. So we were also recognized by the Area Agency on Aging for 35 years of full fair share contributions, which just shows we've been doing this for quite some time, assisting our residents in Deerfield Beach, our seniors to be exact. We successfully transitioned our affordable housing program from the Deerfield Beach Housing Authority. So we're currently now responsible for the intake process and monitoring of all of our home rehabilitation projects. As you see here, we have over 11.5 million awarded in state and federal grants. Last year, we were just in fiscal year 23, we're at 3.1 million. So we see an increase there, slight increase there. And around this time last year for pending grants, we had 26 million. Currently, we have 30 million in grants that are pending that we're waiting to hear awards with. Next slide. So our fiscal year 25 goals. So with our new center, as I mentioned, we want to maximize programs in that center. So we want to grow our volunteer program. Currently, we have a nice nucleus of volunteers, but we want to expand that program so that we can have volunteer-led programming at the center, as well as we're going to coordinate with our nonprofits to see if they can assist with, leading some of those classes. So we'll have an open house for our nonprofits so that we can show them the services that we offer and see if we can partner so that we can continue growing our program. We're also going to host a series of workshops for each division of the house. So for the housing side of the house, we'll do some fair housing workshops, as well as we're going to have a health fair. We plan to do a health fair annually, as well as we started something new recently. We did our first town hall meeting a couple weeks ago, which was a great turnout. We received great feedback from the seniors. So we plan on hosting a series of those town halls and eventually want to open it up to all residents who are seniors in the city of Deerfield Beach. Next, we have expand our education internship program. So over the past couple of years, we've worked with Kaiser College, as well as we work with our local high schools, which I received a great text today from our budget manager with one of our interns who assisted with the budget last year. Sent a text message today letting her know he graduated from high school and how important this internship was to him. and all the skills that he gained from this. So we want to grow that program. So we want to work with, see if we can expand this to work with FAU and Broward College and some of our other local colleges so that we can continue growing that program, which we plan to use interns as well for our next item here, which is our CDBG 5-year consolidated plan. It's due July 2025. So we want to see if we can have our interns lead that. We had an intern lead that program a couple years as well. The last 5-year plan, which is in 2020, and that came out pretty well. Some of the challenges that we have that we'll be evaluating is our transportation program. Currently, we have a staffing capacity, which affects our level of service. And this is not just a Deerfield Beach thing. This is something that the entire Broward County is faced with, having a hard time locating drivers. So this is something that we'll, really evaluate and see if this is something we can potentially outsource so that we can increase our level of service. Next here we have our marketing plan. We want to create a robust marketing plan. So a part of that, we've been working on this for quite some time. So we've established a newsletter in the current fiscal year that we send out monthly, which pretty much tells everything that's going on at the center, which we're very proud of. But we want to expand upon that. So we're looking to wrap some of our buses now so that everyone can, we want to be more visible. So we'll wrap our buses with information about the center, as well as we'll be working with Rebecca to increase our presence through social media and our online website. Also, in the 2020 census, we identified the city of Deerfield Beach as a food desert. So to combat that, we're going to create a pantry at the senior center. And then the last one I have here is establish resources for crisis fund. So we're oftentimes faced with crises at the center that we cannot address through our grant funding. We want to establish a crisis fund so we can help in situations with health crises and financial hardships and things like this. This program will be a one-time where you can apply one time if you need assistance in one of these areas. So that's something we want to look to expand upon. Next slide. So the Community Services Department, it consists of 4 divisions. We have our admin, grants and housing, health and social services, and transportation. Transportation, you'll see a slight increase of 12%, which I'll cover that in a later slide. Administration slide, which you'll see a 400% increase in capital outlay. And what we've identified with moving into the new center is there's additional furniture that is needed, as well as equipment. So we want to make sure that we outfit the new center with all the needs. Next slide. Now we look at grants and housing, which with grants and housing, something that we're mentioning here is in the grants and contribution. We have $150,000 allocated for the community participation grant program, which came before commission not too long ago, which we streamlined the process to make that annual allocation a part of the annual budget. Next slide. Social Services Division, which was in the operating expenditures, we have a 20% decrease there. And then for our consultant services, we had a consultant working with us with the transition to the new center and licensing and all that good stuff. And that contract has come to an end, so you'll see a decrease there. And now we move to transportation. With transportation, as I mentioned in previous slides, we want to wrap our buses so that we're more visible to promote our services. So you'll see an increase of 27% in operating expenditures there. Our last slide here is grants, and this is pretty much our entitlement grants. You'll see our home grant, our CDBG, and so forth. And what you'll see here is for fiscal year 25, you'll see decreases, which a lot of these funds have been funded through multiple years, and we've been expending a lot of these funds. So you'll see we'll have a decrease there and what we carry forward. Concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have noticed when I come over to the center, the increase in participants. I have had people call me about what you were talking about, volunteering, wanting to get involved. So there's a lot of energy coming out of what you're doing over there. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to the lady that you and I talked about, and you know, and she's an attorney. And she's just looking for something to do, and she thinks that would be something. I hope it works out. It will. It'll be good, baby. Good, good. She wants to do it? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So there's a lot of energy coming out of community service, and I've watched the increase in numbers. So there's some good things that you're doing over there, Mr. Dallas, and we appreciate it, and thank you.
District one.
A few things. First of all, you know, it shows how much you care for our community, and I really appreciate everything that you do. I really do. Has the adult daycare center received its certification in the audit? I know last time we talked, we were still waiting for someone to come on out to bless us, basically. So I was just curious where that stands.
So our application was approved. We're still awaiting an inspector to come out and take a look at the facility. So we reached out to our lobbyists in Tallahassee to help with that, and they've been kind of helping, trying to put a push. But from what we understand, ACA is just very short-staffed right now.
So, I know it's been a month now. The food pantry, I think, is a great idea. You know, especially people who are on a fixed income, the way things are, it's great that we're offering that. We didn't talk at all about the Belsos daycare center. That's under your purview as well? Am I correct?
Yes, the Bezos is part of the campus. We do have some intergenerational programming that we have planned for them. We've kind of talked already prematurely about a community garden where we work together with the kids and the seniors. So we plan to program it.
It's still on target to open up next school year?
It's supposed to be. The rain delays have set us back a little, so hopefully it's not too bad.
All right, all right. And the marketing program, I think that's a must. This is such a tremendous center. And you know, we want to make sure people know about it. Make sure that we're marketing the right way, you know, because, you know, the people that we want to market to aren't necessarily, you know, computer savvy. So we just want to make sure, you know, and I know you know your job better than I do. So I just want to make sure that we get the word out, because this facility is fantastic. It's definitely a crown jewel in our city. So I just want to thank you for everything. I really do. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
What's the possibility of, or where are we with getting the Braithwaite site designated a historical site?
So, right now, what we're just waiting on, it's been approved as a historical site. We're just waiting on the sign to be fabricated, which I was told it typically takes about 6 months.
Thank you. The development and finalization of the CDBG 5-year consolidated plan is a rollover item.
No, so the 5-year consolidated plan, it takes time to get the plan done, but it's due in 2025.
It is due.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a hard stop on that.
Yes.
To be completed. Okay. Talked about food deserts, and I know the food pantry is going to go a long way to help addressing that. I also want us to utilize the freebie service that we have. We have people in the Palms that in other areas of our city that don't have the ability and have long distances to be able to travel to get to any type of grocery store. With freebie, they can utilize that and get a free ride, which lessens the demand that we have on our travel, on our transportation. And they can get a free ride over to the Publix, which is in the CRA, in order to allow them access. So we need, when we work on this comprehensive mobility plan that we're looking at doing transportation, that we educate people over in the Palms and other areas at the number that they can call so they can get a ride. Because a lot of those people are landlocked. That's not just there, B'nai B'rith, all these other areas within the city, they have that same problem. When we used to have food, having a food pantry there is great for those localized citizens. But I remember meeting a 90-year-old woman who walked from B'nai B'rith for free food giveaway right over here. So they need some transportation outside of what we're providing. This is the way to do it. For that education part, I hope that that's part of it. Okay, thank you.
The next presentation for the evening is Economic Development, Mr. Chris Moore.
Acting Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Commission. I'm here tonight actually with Caitlin Collier, our business development manager. She's on call in case you have any big, deep questions about any of our business development programs. So I'd like to start going through our fiscal 24 achievements, and we have many. Our office is very active. So just, to remind the City Commission, so first of all, economic development was mentioned frequently, actually, in the city manager's presentations this evening, and we're so proud to be taking a leadership role in some of these major initiatives in the city. It's a real honor, and it just shows the city's commitment to economic development. And in general, our role, of course, is daily professional representation to the business community, and our goal is to expand the tax base through economic development and redevelopment. So how do we do that? We start with small business and entrepreneurship training. This program in particular has just really taken off, and we're so proud of it. We have actually 2,100 participants in this program to date. People can, for free of charge, take classes on marketing, finance, social media, legal, and business basics. And this is the kind of training that encourages entrepreneurship in our community. To date this year, we've offered personalized business assistance to 252 different cases. And that could be a soup to nuts kind of thing. It could be anything from, actually today, this is someone with a Section 108 housing voucher application, which is not even our field, but it goes all the way to all of the technical aspects of starting a business in the city. And one of the new things that we've done this year is Central City Outreach. I'm so proud of our efforts to get into the community. We've tried a real grassroots approach, and it seems to be paying off dividends. Our new redevelopment project coordinator has adopted a very grassroots approach to community outreach and inclusion. And he's conducted over 60 what we're calling living room chats or carport chats, as they would be, one-on-one in people's living rooms individually with them to increase their comfort in terms of discussing their vision for the city and to build trust amongst the community. So moving on, we just sponsored the UL Identity Workshop. I thought that was very educational for the community insofar as it, offered us education about how to manage population growth through smart design. And those are lessons that will pay off for us as we approach these upcoming projects with City Hall, et cetera, and the City Hall campus. Dixie Highway Development Opportunity Marketing Signs, also a very low ticket or low price item, but that's really benefited us in terms of communication with the community. Our redevelopment project manager, again, has fielded over 24 phone calls off of just those 3 signs about people, investors that are interested in opportunities in the Dixie Highway corridor. This year's commercial real estate brokers event was also focused on the Central City area. So pleased that we were able to offer this in person this year. First time since 2021, we were able to offer it in person. This year, we really made an effort to reach out to not just commercial brokers, but the development community. And so we had participation by the likes of Styles and the Mary Mac company. And that, that breakfast also, by the way, was co-sponsored by our Economic Development Council. So we've completed the Central City Comprehensive Market Study that was completed by Colliers International. And we've also completed the first round of the Level Up program. This is the partnership with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce to promote entrepreneurship, specifically amongst minority entrepreneurs in the community. As you'll recall, one of the consequences, or actually good consequences or surprises from COVID, was the proliferation of new business startups among minorities, specifically women minority residents. And we know that our programs are working because when we talk to others outside of our community about what we're doing, we're winning awards. The Florida Redevelopment Association awarded us the Out of the Box Award for the Central City Redevelopment Plan, and the South Florida Small Business Development Center at FAU recognized us as their Regional Partner of the Year. Next slide. So, fiscal 25 goals. Again, many of these things were already discussed, so I'll just go through them, in a little bit of more detail. We'll start with the downtown Deerfield feasibility study. This is an initiative that, the survey itself was actually, launched last week. Believe it or not, we've had, in 3 days, we've had 643 responses to that survey. And what that tells us is that the city commission's vision for that area is spot on, and that residents, are interested in that area and they want to see things happen. They're concerned with Pioneer Park, they're concerned with City Hall, and they're concerned with public safety. We'll be sharing that information with the Urban Land Institute next week when they're in town to do the technical advisory panel. And of course, we'll be also making that information available to City Commission in advance of your meetings with the ULI panel. So of course, I'm talking about the ULI TAP, that's the next bullet. That's next Monday and Tuesday. You all will be able to participate one-on-one with the ULI. The public will be invited to participate with the ULI. They will be studying a very thick background paper that staff prepared for them on the 3 properties that comprise the downtown campus. And they'll be making preliminary recommendations, conceptual recommendations for what we might envision for the future of the City Hall campus in the downtown Deerfield area. It's our hope that that project becomes the northern anchor of the Pioneer Grove redevelopment effort as a catalytic driver for the whole central city area. So, we have a lot of hope for that project for this next year. I won't go into detail about the cultural arts and historical district that was mentioned previously and the well project. We're really proud of the well project because that's something that, as we're brainstorming internally, we talked about how we're creating our own redevelopment agency using our internal resources and our own staff. And so that was a project that was conceptualized in a brainstorming session amongst staff. And it's an adaptive reuse of the East Water Plant into something that could really, spur a lot of activity of redevelopment in that area, especially given the positive energy now in the Bezos Center and the Braithwaite Center directly across the street. This year, we will also be looking at the formation of the Redevelopment Enterprise Fund. It's one of those things that's contingent on the progress of the 1045 development project, which our department has played a major role in. When that project closes, it's our hope that a good portion of those proceeds are reinvested into redevelopment. And at that time, we would create the Redevelopment Enterprise Fund. And then a portion of those funds then would be earmarked specifically for economic incentives, for Central City catalytic incentives. Mayor just mentioned the need for, the lack of a grocery store in that neighborhood. That's the type of use that's been recommended since, for more than 6 years as a need in that community. And so we would hope that economic incentive funds could be targeted to attracting that type of development in the Dixie Highway corridor. Next slide. So additional goals, the 1045 project, I just spoke of that. Of course, our department is involved in it. It's a multi-department effort with the city manager, the city attorney, planning and zoning, and others. We really feel the fire to expedite the implementation of that program because, of course, we're waiting to reap the rewards of that project closing. We will continue our support of the EDC and our partnership with them. The commercial brokers breakfast, as I mentioned, was very successful. In September, they will be looking to put on their second annual regional economic development conference, where we brought in Boca Raton, Coconut Creek, Coral Springs, and Pompano Beach for a look at regional economic development issues. There's 2 kind of technology things that we'll be implementing this year. The economic development dashboard. So that is an online or a website feature where we will be providing demographics in a very user-friendly infographic type format so that people can come to the website and get information very quickly and very easily about our demographics. What is our average income?
What is our population, real basic demographics like that, and a deeper dig into things of interest to them. A companion feature that we'll be launching this year is our online business portal. When planning was giving their presentation, they were talking about moving to electronic permitting. Well, this business portal is actually a precursor to that experience for people. Again, in the spirit of encouraging entrepreneurship in our community, one of the things we hope to provide is an interactive experience for people where they can sit in the comfort of their living room with their tablet and research particular properties. If you have a dream, you can look at a property and say, is my business permitted there? What permits are required for that type of business? What's the business tax receipt required for that? And they can start to vet their projects through this business portal online so that when they come and present themselves at City Hall, they're a much more informed and ready business entity. In addition, this year, we will be implementing the CDBG Ready to Work program. That's a partnership with Broward College and FAU, and it's the first time that we're partnering with them on that Ready to Work program. It's wonderful to be having those relationships with those institutions of higher education in the community. In particular, those programs will be something that actually creates people that come out of the programs with certifications in new advanced technologies, things like you were mentioning before, AI, and even you can get a certification in how to be a drone technician. Thank you, technician. And we're really excited about the microloan program that we've been working on this past year. We're about ready to roll it out. We've been working with local banks, BB America, Truist, and First Horizon so far are on board. So this again is leveraging our partnerships with the SBDC and bringing in the banking community to assist them in meeting their CRA goals. And CRA goals, of course, are lending to minority and underprivileged neighborhoods. So the banks have provided their underwriting requirements, and the SBDC comes in and partners with them to train potential borrowers, entrepreneurs, on the skills that they need, the capacity building that they need to be lendable. And so that's a really important part, of course, of financing a startup business. Something that we've talked about in the past, but we really want to get dig in on this year is city real estate management. And what is that? That's looking and being a more active manager of the city's real estate assets. We have a property disposition list, but this effort would be doing things like tax-based analysis to make sure that all properties in the city, are paying their fair share and paying their share that's reflective of market trends. Also, something that we've talked about a lot, we would be more actively involved in monitoring tax liens, and so that when tax liens do become available, we can look at those opportunities and identify properties that we might want to acquire or otherwise entertain for redevelopment purposes. And again, just continuing our partnership with the EDC on Deerfield Beach promotional campaign. Next slide. So, so I share the same refrain. Our personnel services, of course, went up this year due to insurance. And I'm actually very happy to say that of all of the programs that I just talked to you about, this is essentially a level funding from last year, with the exception of the capital outlay, the $30,000 request for the well feasibility study right now. We're doing a lot with 3.5 positions. And that ends my presentation. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. District 4? District 2?
No.
Just a quick question. I mean, a lot of great programs, a lot of action, a lot of things happening in economic development, and it's greatly appreciated. Do we have a master plan for economic development? Do we have a vision? What is that vision? What is that master plan that we're following to get from where we're at now to where we want to be?
Yeah, yes, we do. And I think that you're referencing to some comments made at ULI. But yes, we have a vision and yes, we have a plan. We have a strategic redevelopment plan that we're working on for Central City. It's actually building off of the plan that we won the award for at FRA. And now it's just digging in deeper into the details of what we want to do to redevelop the Central City area. So the answer is yes, we have a plan and yes, we have a vision.
In addition, you got to look at each, corner of the city kind of individually too, right? So you have the four corners, which would be Hillsborough and Power Line. And that has a plan that's got a vision and got, some goals wrapped around it. And that plan's almost complete. That was actually more on Eric's side of the house that he completed that. You talk about Pioneer Grove, that's a distinct district that has a vision. So each one of these redevelopment areas has its own kind of distinct look and feel. So there's more than just, what Ms. Maury talked about.
And we have a vision for the entire city as well that these plans fall into.
Sure, I mean, then that's your zoning code, that's your land development code. That's the master plan, if you will, of what the city expects to see in terms of development.
Thank you. The Dixie Highway rezoning was something we had planned last year that's rolling over into this year. We budgeted 35,000, or at least request was last year.
No, Mr. Power is initiating that in this current year.
Okay. In this current year. That's
Correct.
Okay. What about permitting automation?
That is what we talked about earlier with planning. So we've got the stage of the Laserfish repository completed, and so that all had to get done in the background, and all that repository information is complete. So it looks like we'll be complete not in FY24 but FY25.
Okay, so last year this was under economic development, and now it's in other areas. Okay. Commuter rail station strategy, have we come up with that?
It's complete.
That is complete, that we did that. The public-private partnerships for infrastructure and facility projects, have we had any partnerships yet?
So, the City Hall project that we're working on is the major project that we're working on, is a P3 model right now.
Okay. The city real estate management, what exactly does that mean? Is that just putting up the signs and monitoring that?
No, so you'll recall that we've had past meetings with the property appraiser, looking at case studies of properties that we're not appreciating at all, despite normal market appreciation. And from a equity perspective, we'd like to take a look at those properties and identify why they're not being properly appraised. And not to pick on any particular individual, but looking to see citywide, where there are deficiencies in the property appraiser's work.
Okay. And that's still ongoing? That's something we're still doing? Or do we think we've accomplished that goal?
We're actually in the process of we've identified 3 outside consultants who we'd like to have someone neutral to do that work for us. So we're working on scope of services with them right now to do that.
Okay. Are there any plans for us to be able to get in tune to what is happening when it comes to the availability of properties within the city of Deerfield Beach? We talked about Dixie Highway rezoning. Now, that I guess is in progress, but we've got a property that's there on Dixie Highway that has now undergone a second change over that we don't find out about until it's too late. That really puts us behind the 8 ball when it comes to an opportunity to get proper development in there. What are we doing to be able to monitor that? And I don't see anything budgeted to try to do that. Is that a goal that we have?
So that could be accomplished through a subscription to LoopNet, where we would get monthly reports on real estate transactions, real estate that hits the market and availability in the city. This is something that we can absolutely implement and stay on top of.
But I guess I'm a little baffled why we haven't been doing that, and I don't see that in the budget here, so it doesn't seem to be a consideration. But it's something we need to start monitoring and finding out, because I don't want to see us miss any more of these opportunities that we keep missing. Thank you.
So I want to make one correction because I misspoke through the capital projects on one of them. And that was on the SS4A grant where I said we were awarded that grant. We're actually awarded the demonstration project portion of that grant, which is to demonstrate what the permanent improvements would look like. And then we're seeking the larger grant amount. So that capital project is obviously contingent upon that grant award. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you. I guess for a public comment?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone online that care to comment? Okay. Anyone here in the room? Go ahead, come on up to the podium.
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I am trying to understand this year the budget philosophy and decisions made by our city manager. On the one hand, we have his recent edict that seniors attending programming at the Brathwaite Senior Center will no longer be entitled to free coffee and will have to pay for it. On the other hand, we have the city manager extolling the virtues of the city commission because they recently put a local resident who is a financial expert on the Deerfield Beach Fire Pension Board while keeping quiet about the financial obligations the city is responsible for when it comes to the Fire Pension Board. Fellow taxpayer Joe Hines touched on this subject briefly at the last.
Does that have anything to do with this actual workshop, Mr.
Oh,
Hurd?
yes, and you'll see in about 10 seconds.
Okay, hurry up.
At the last commission meeting, but it deserves heightened scrutiny now, especially during the budget process. For fiscal 22, the city paid $6.2 million, and in fiscal 23, $6.9 million to keep the fire pension.
We haven't discussed public safety yet. That's probably better for tomorrow night, don't you think?
No, I think it's best right now.
Okay.
That is over $13 million in just 2 years. When the mayor says we have limited ability to do anything, says we are stuck with it, says unfortunately we can't fix it, he is not being accurate with the taxpayers. The city has 2 representatives on that 5-member board, one of them being a well-respected member of the city's finance department, Ms. Haney. She is aware of the factor that contributed to the city having to pay out $13 million of the taxpayers' money. The factor is evident by looking at the 5-year investment returns on the investment portfolio of the Fire Pension Trust Fund, which is contained on page 22 of the December 31st, 2023 investment performance report prepared by Burgess Chambers and Associates. Has anyone in this room seen this report? It shows a 42% total return for those 5 years. An investment in an S&P 500 fund like from Fidelity or Vanguard for the same 5-year period returned 87%. This difference in performance cost the Fire Pension Fund $48 million over the 5 years. And since 65% of the fund's assets can be invested in large cap equities, a passive S&P 500 index fund would have been a suitable investment choice for 2/3 of the pension trust fund investments. 2/3 of $48 million is an extra $32 million, or more than enough to have totally eliminated the city's last 2 years' contributions. Ms. Haney and the other city-appointed board member have the ability to call out.
Mr. Hurd, your time is up. Thank you.
Any chance for an extra minute, Mayor?
Got it.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? You left your coffee, Mr. Hurd. Prop. Thanks for living.
That didn't take from my time. Tom Plow, 3920 Northwest 4th Court, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board here in Deerfield Beach. Been on the board for 10 years. And I think it's very refreshing to see a transparent financial presentation from all the departments. I do have to remark that everyone here that runs these departments seems to love what they're doing. They seem to be totally committed. Makes me more proud of my city, especially when I hear about other cities that are proud of what we're doing. So I think that the city in the last 10 years has really gone on a ramp upward, where we're getting a lot of things done. I'm really excited about the development, Pioneer Grove and what that's going to be. There were a lot of areas down in that area that were eyesores for many years. I've lived here since 1983. So I've seen a lot of things. I've raised my children here, and it's going to be my home for life. And my wife feels the same way. So I think everybody's doing a great job, and I'm very proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Ms. Reed, go ahead. Representative?
Mayor, did you acknowledge me?
Yes, ma'am. Couple times.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear what's going on, and this is what I'm just calling to complain right now about the volume that's coming from this meeting, that I know I can't not hear everything that's being said. And I don't know why we don't have these meetings at City Hall where the communication is much better and than what you have here. Half of this meeting, I don't know about the other folks who are online here, but I know half of the meeting I have not been able to hear. So I'm just want to know, next year that you would possibly, if you're not going to fix this system here at the tech center, that you go back to City Hall for the budget hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to close it to the public then. Thank you. Just a couple things. This is my last budget workshop after almost 16 years, but this is not my 16th budget workshop. We did not have budget workshops when I first got in office. We were presented the budget in a meeting, just handed it to us, a giant pile of paper and a giant binder. I still have them. And then we would come back for a first reading and a second reading. That was it. That was what the commission got, and that's how we handled the budget back then. And if you were a member of the public and you wanted the budget, you had to go to the city clerk's office and pay about $50 to actually get a copy of the budget as a citizen of the city of Deerfield Beach. That's the way it was. We've come a long way. These are billed as workshops. And I'm going through the minutes, and there's a reference to a comment that was made, that I know what was verbally said, and I hope that we take this into next year, because I think tomorrow night's too late. This should have been all of this stuff should have been handed to us beforehand to review, to engage in an actual workshop. Because when you workshop, that means you throw out ideas, you bounce things back and forth. Right now, this is a giant kind of book report. So I can understand Commissioner Drosky's or Vice Mayor Drosky's frustrations, because we're kind of in the same boat yet again, and this was discussed previously. So it is frustrating to do that. With that said, I know what this is also. This is a wish list of ideas that not everything that are in these minutes, not everything that is being requested ends up making it into the final budget. So we need to keep that in mind and understand that. So this is a good step for us, but I would hope in the future, after doing this for so long and having different changes with people, is that we continue to make this more of a workshop, that we can share ideas and get an idea of what each commissioner wants with the public, and interact with our department heads a little bit differently than this format that we're currently doing. I think that would be more effective.
I appreciate that feedback. I agree 100% with you. I'm not going to make an excuse of why that didn't happen this year, but I think you can see the fact that me and Boris are running the show without a CFO and have some indication of where our priorities needed to be. So I recognize that. My vision is that we do another workshop. We still do this because I think it's important that the city commission sees what the departments are requesting and why, and I can get that feedback individually from you. Also, disclaimer, when I have my budget meetings with them, I tell them that when you walk out of this room, doesn't mean that it's been approved. So I think the same thing applies here. But that's just trying to make a little joke there. But what my vision is that as we move forward, yeah, as Horace mentioned, we did select a CFO, and I'm got a lot of expectations, but I also have a lot of I believe it's going to be really good for us. But what I want to do is I want to marry a strategic planning up front with the city commission, so we can go over all the goals and objectives within the strategic plan and look at those holistically and say, are we on track? And we can get those broad discussions in a bit of a different form. I recognize that. I take full responsibility that didn't happen this year. But just to give you the commission as a body, some indication of where I want to be.
Okay. And I do hope that you will seriously consider the recommendation of taking last year's budget hearing and what was talked about, or even just last year's budget. This is what was approved. This was funded. This is what was accomplished. This was not accomplished. Here's the reasons why, and here's where we're at. Because otherwise, it's just copy and paste sometimes, and we don't want to have that. And some departments are spinning, and we need to identify that and get them to move forward and get them in gear. Thank you. Any other comments from the board or commission?
One quick comment. I've been up here 5 years now, and this workshop has gotten better every single year. So I know the city manager has listened to our comments. It's not perfect, and 5 years from now, it will not be perfect, but it is getting better. I think the presentations were a lot better, and sometimes there's baby steps, and I think it is definitely getting better. It's trending in the right direction. It's definitely better than it was when I first got in office back in 2019. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate, all the department's hard work as well. And I'm just looking for more improvements.
You may either leave your book here or take it with you, but please be sure to bring it back, as it does have your day 2 working.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.